I'm still alive. I mean, it's all coming back to me now. How I didn't listen to my sister, even though she told me several times not to drive home that night. It was her birthday party, which unfortunately fell on a weekday. The next day was Wednesday, and I had a very important presentation at the office. So when Emily said,
"Why don't you crash right here? You can get up early and drive home tomorrow. It's not safe to drive through those woods so late, Peter."
You know I can't do that. I have to go home tonight. I have a big speech tomorrow, and I worked too hard for this presentation.
But it's 2:30 already. By the time you get to the Crooked Creek, it'll be the witching hour.
Witching hour? What era are you living in, Emily?
Look, Peter, I don't care what you think about me, but it's too risky. People have reported seeing weird things on that road.
Like what? Ghouls and demons? Ooh.
Joke all you want, but 3 people from our town have already gone missing while driving that road late at night. The cops couldn't even find their car. Some say Satanists perform a ritual in those woods at the witching hour. A farmer from the outskirts said that he saw a man crossing the road while wearing a deer head.
My God!
I got up, exhaling a sigh of disappointment, and said,
I live in the modern era, Emily, so no matter how many scary stories you narrate, I'm gonna drive myself home tonight. All your bullshit fear is making me more adamant to do this.
When Emily realized none of her superstitions will work, she gave up. I bid goodnight to everyone and grabbed my jacket to show myself out. Tomorrow is a big day, and that's all I need to focus on right now. Emily accompanied me to the door, and before I left, she kissed me on the cheek and said,
"No matter what you do or see, just don't get out of your car, okay?"
Come on, you...
Peter, I am done arguing with you. Just promise me you won't get out of the car no matter what. Swear to me.
Fine, I swear on you. Now, stop worrying so much. I'm gonna be just fine.
I gave her a warm hug and wished her a happy birthday one more time. She watched me drive away in my red Chevy. The roads were completely deserted. In this part of town, you will hardly find traffic after sunset. So in a way, I was glad that I would reach home without any hurdles. The moon was hiding in the clouds, and obviously, there were no streetlights. My car headlights were the only thing that were illuminating the way. All the creepy stories Emily told me didn't scare me then, but now, this dark, empty road started to spook me a bit. I rolled down the window and played some music to lighten up the mood. Everything was going fun until I reached the Crooked Creek. Having too many drinks and water later to sober myself up, I felt the urge to pee. I didn't want to stop earlier, thinking I would be able to manage, but it turned out to be an emergency. I stopped the car, got out, and walked to this nearby bush to lose some weight. I was doing my business when I heard a rustling sound, as if someone is running at me at full speed. Being scared, I turned around immediately. A shadowy figure moved on the other side of the road, and soon, a man dressed in a pretty weird manner surfaced from that darkness. He was standing on the opposite side, but the road was not too vast. I could see him quite clearly. The car headlights helped me to get a clear picture, even in that dark. Remember these characters? Thompson and Thompson from Adventures of Tintin? The man was dressed very similarly to that. He wore a black suit with a hat. On one hand, he had a briefcase. On the other hand, he had an umbrella. His face was pale and blank, like he only looked human, but was a completely different creature inside. I kid you not. In that scary ambiance, his sudden appearance gave me goosebumps. If I haven't peed earlier, I would have surely peed on myself. I didn't want to sound scared because I realized I am standing outside my car, which is a few feet away. Deciding not to do anything stupid at that point, I got my shit together. I called out to him.
Hello, mister. Do you need any help?
The man didn't say anything, just looked behind him, turning his head in slow motion like someone or something else was controlling him. He then slowly turned back at me and nodded his head from left to right, gesturing no. But he also didn't walk away. Without wasting any more time, I took a step to go to my car. That's when the man started to run at me at full speed.
Holy shit!
But I was quick, like a pro. Before he could get to me, I almost threw myself into the car and locked the door. He stopped right next to my window, and finally, I got a glimpse of his entire face. He had white paint smeared on his face. He had no eyebrows and blue, glassy eyes. I was panting in fear, not regretting my decision not to listen to Emily. The man watched me for a few moments and then looked ahead like something was out there, waiting. And that's when things changed into horror from just being creepy. The man started to run ahead of my car, and suddenly, another man dressed exactly like him came out of the dark and followed. I put my car into drive, and the two men ran even faster. What happened next will be forever stamped into my memory. The two black-suited men rushed to the other side of the road near a bush, and a group of freaky-looking men, all dressed the same way, came out. I realized it was a trap they all have set. The 7 to 8 black-suited men started to jump and howl, scaring the shit out of me. Right then, far away in that field, a red flare light lit up, spotting another man. And then, from the other side of the road, a tall man wearing a deer head with huge antlers walked right in front of my car to join that freaky group of men. While walking, he stared at me, and I felt they were all waiting for that one chance to get to me, which luckily, they didn't. As soon as the deer-headed man crossed the road, I hit hard on the accelerator and sped like a road runner. I only stopped when I reached home. I couldn't sleep the entire night and kept checking out from my window, fearing those black-suited men must have followed me home. I am glad they didn't. So, for a little suggestion, if you happen to drive by the Crooked Creek after dark, just don't get out of your car in the middle of the road. I don't know what those men were up to that night, but I do believe that they were there for a sacrifice to perform some scary ritual.
This story is a dramatization based on footage provided by a security guard at a massage parlor in Argentina, who detected how the massage tables were mysteriously moving on their own. In this story, we will see what the guard actually saw, but the camera could not show us.
Being a night security guard is as boring a job as people say it is. Or so I thought. The day that made me change my mind looked like a normal day. Nothing special. It was very strange for a massage parlor to have night shifts, but the bosses were obsessed with being open as long as possible.
Hey, Lucas.
Hey, Laura, you're leaving already?
Yeah, I need to take a shower and eat immediately. I'm very tired.
I know, right? Me too, but my shift just started.
Sucks to be you. I wouldn't want to spend the night cooped up here, surrounded by all these ghosts.
Ghosts?
I looked at her, laughing suspiciously.
Oh, come on. You're telling me you haven't heard anything?
Nobody talks to the security guard.
Oh my god, when you're bored at night, keep an eye on the cameras in the garden.
The ones that are loose?
Yeah, those ones. A lot of people say they're possessed.
Oh, you're playing with me.
Nuh-uh. Every time we pass by, we feel something uncomfortable, like someone's there.
I think it's a case of collective paranoia.
Paranoia or not, some even saw those beds move in impossible ways. You'll see, man, there's something weird going on.
If you say so.
We spent some more time talking until Laura went home. I didn't really believe her story about the paranormal beds, although I admit I was a little curious as to what all the fuss was about among the workers. What ghost could inhabit a massage parlor? The very idea was funny to me. I waited till almost everyone had left and began to make my nightly rounds. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As soon as night fell, the place became very quiet, even though there were a few people working. In itself, the place was pretty cramped, and the loneliness only made it worse. It made perfect sense that the employees thought the place was haunted. I walked around distractedly, watching every part of the place. From one second to the next, a strange sensation began to run through my body. I started to feel very cold, and I got goosebumps. My lungs started to feel clogged, and it was hard to breathe. I will never be able to explain that feeling. It was as if I was in enormous danger, as if the atmosphere had become cloudy. I didn't let my unjustified fear overcome me. There was nothing there, so I decided to keep walking, determined to reach the other side of the room. Reaching the end of the path, my legs were getting heavier and heavier. All my joints ached, and before I knew it, I was crying. I reached the other side of the room and touched the wall as proof that I had overcome my challenge. It was only when I turned around that I confirmed what I feared. This was not only a quiet, uninhabited, and even calm place. It was also the place Laura had told me about. The place where strange events happened and the stretchers moved by themselves. Still with tears in my eyes, I quickly left the place and immediately felt better. I finished turning around and went back to the camera room, still in shock at what had happened. Ever since I got back, part of me knew that I had experienced something out of the ordinary in that place. But at the same time, I knew that I hadn't seen anything, that it had probably all been the work of my imagination. I became obsessed with watching the cameras all night, waiting for something strange to happen. I was beginning to think that nothing was going to happen until I saw how. Just as Laura had said, the beds moved by themselves. I got my spirits up and ran to where the stretchers were. This time, something had changed. The oppressive atmosphere that had drowned me before was gone. I walked calmly around the place and began to touch the stretchers. The wheels were fine. There was no wind or anything else that could cause movement.
How the hell did you move so much? Enough paranoia.
I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, knowing that I was now reassured that my fears were all unjustified. My peace was shattered when I felt something touch my hand. I opened my eyes and looked down at the bed. A white, veiny hand was resting on top of mine. The suffocating atmosphere I felt before had returned, as if waiting for me to make this discovery. I swallowed saliva and raised my head, sweating, ready to meet whatever it was I was going to find. But when I raised my head, there was nothing. I looked down again at the gurney, and it was empty.
I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. There was something here. What do you want?
The monster didn't answer me. He just took a few steps forward and moved the stretcher from side to side, as he did in the chambers, with the difference that this time, I could see him. Although his hand had been on the stretcher, this being had his small and twisted eyes fixed on my face. Meanwhile, the air felt thicker and thicker, as whatever was in front of me slowly approached me. I remembered how I criticized in all the horror movies the characters who died for not escaping, and for the first time, I understood them. I felt as if hypnotized by that terrifying presence that, despite having a smile from ear to ear, was trembling with nervous anticipation of catching me. I gathered all my strength and managed to stand up. I ran out in desperation at the sight of a being that didn't seem to mind me leaving. When I reached the security cameras, the stretchers moved from one side to the other with enormous violence. It was as if he was provoking me, playing with me. I rewound the filming time to see my attacker again, but I only saw myself crying on the floor and talking to nothing. The next day, I quit. I never told this story to anyone. I didn't have any proof so they wouldn't think I was crazy. If I can give you one lesson I took away from this, is that there is no such thing as unjustified fear. If you feel something strange, trust your instincts, and most importantly, never try to provoke the unknown. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy. A cop car was patrolling the highway when they felt suspicious about a car driving in front of them. The cops pulled over that car and went to talk to the owners sitting inside that car. When they asked for their license and other important documents, the owners started acting even more mysterious. So they decided to check the car trunk. The story you are about to see is a dramatized, animated version of this scary found footage. I have been a cop for 3 years now. Many weird as well as alarming encounters happened, but this one incident still feels so fresh in my memory. It was a normal Monday night. My partner Luis and I were parked on the highway checking the speedometer to calculate the speed of the passing cars. Both of us were sitting inside the car when a white car passed us at full speed. The sound of the car passing was so sudden that both of us didn't take a second to follow it immediately.
Jeez, what's the hurry? We can't lose him. Hell, we won't.
Saying this, I pushed hard on the accelerator and Luis turned on the cop cap siren. Hearing the cop car siren, the car took up even more speed, and that's when I noticed the number plate is damaged from one corner, like someone kicked on it in anger. While chasing the suspicious car, I looked at Luis and said,
Did you see the plate number? Yeah, something's wrong with the person driving this car.
Suddenly, Luis took out the megaphone, peeked out the moving car's window, almost to his waist, and started announcing,
Stop the car! I repeat, stop the car!
but the driver didn't stop.
Whoever's driving this car, we want you to stop right now!
It was thrilling how we were chasing the car and making the announcements simultaneously. After 5 more minutes of the chase, we left the highway and entered the city. As soon as that happened, regular traffic caught in and the driver had to slow down. The moment I realized this, I carefully dodged the cars and went completely close to the car.
Stop the car! Right now!
Hearing the final warning, the car stopped. Luis and I got out of the car, grabbed our guns in case we needed to defend ourselves, and slowly walked to the car we were in after all this time. As we reached the right and left driver's side windows, we were shocked. A middle-aged white guy was sitting in the driver's seat, and on the passenger seat sat a pregnant woman. The woman's hair was all messy, and she had a very unhygienic appearance. Her clothes were smelly and dirty. The man was wearing shorts and had no clothes on his upper body. Seeing me scanning them, the woman snapped her finger on my face and said in a scratchy, rude voice,
Aren't the police supposed to help people?
What?
You heard me right, officer.
I expected them to be intimidated, but instead, her attitude was exactly the opposite. I asked,
Why didn't you stop? We were following you for quite some time.
Oh my god, is this where the country has stooped? Open your eyes, officer. I'm pregnant. My husband is taking me to the hospital.
Saying this, she ran her filthy, muddy hand on her tummy and gave me a big, creepy smile. The way she smiled, I felt goosebumps on my skin. Luis was standing at the driver's side window. He looked at the husband and asked,
Where are you guys coming from?
Is this necessary right now, officer? Can't your questions wait for some other time?
No, ma'am, they cannot. Though you didn't answer my question. Where are you coming from?
Oh, God, officer, is it fair to hold up a pregnant woman on her way to give birth for some stupid interrogation?
I'm a father of 3 kids myself, and I can tell very well when a woman is about to give birth. You seem relaxed, not like you're about to go in labor at this moment.
Just then, the woman's face turned pale. She looked at me and started making a scene.
Teach your fellow officer how to behave like a citizen. Is he gonna lecture me about a woman's body now?
Look, ma'am, there's no need to get all aggressive. Just give us the right information and we'll drive you to the nearest hospital by ourselves.
How hard is it for you guys to understand that I'm going through an emergency situation? Just let us go.
This is when Luis lost it and banged his fist on the hood of the car quite hard, yelling,
If it's an emergency, then how come you passed 2 huge signs for emergency healthcare on your way here?
Hearing this, the man finally spoke up.
We just got a little nervous once you guys started following us.
Yeah, you guys freaked us out. Now let us go, okay?
We will let you go when we feel like it. Now answer the damn question my buddy just asked you.
We lived on the outskirts. That's why we're driving to the city. It was all a misunderstanding, officer. You have nothing to worry about.
But no matter how much the woman smiled and tried to convince us, I could smell something fishy. Suddenly, I heard kicking and grunting sounds coming from the trunk of the car. Luis pointed his gun at the man and screamed,
What is that? What do you have in the trunk? What are you saying? There's nothing in the trunk. Just come on. Open the trunk. Open it now.
I grabbed my walkie-talkie and called for backup without wasting a single second. Luis kept his gun pointed at the husband, while I slowly walked to the trunk as it began to open. Once it did, we found a horrified-looking man, taped and tied by his hands, lying inside the trunk. He was covered in sweat. His eyes were filled with terror. The moment he saw my face, he jumped out of the truck, falling on the road. I untied his hands, and he busted into tears of joy.
Oh, thank you, officer. They're lying. This is my car. They abducted it and forced me to get inside that trunk. Oh, please, just please believe me.
By this time, the backup arrived, and we helped the man to get medical attention. The paramedics came and attended to him. Meanwhile, Luis and I asked the husband and wife to come out of the car. Guessing that their evil plan of stealing this car along with kidnapping the owner has come to an end, the duo did something unthinkable. As soon as their feet hit the ground, the woman pulled out a bunch of curled up newspaper balls from her stomach and threw them at us. It was such a shock to find out that the woman was never pregnant in the first place, and this entire time, she and her husband was bluffing us, caught me off guard. Before I could react, the duo started running. But Luis and I both fired our guns at the air, and I screamed.
The next round will be into your kneecaps, guys.
Okay.
Don't shoot! Please, don't!
If you have any weapons, surrender them now, or we will.
No, don't shoot. We don't have any weapons.
She's telling the truth. Please!
The gunshots made them stop. We arrested this criminal duo and found out that they had various other charges for the past couple of months. Charges of robbery, shoplifting, battery, and so much more. They are now behind bars, and every Christmas, Luis and I receive gifts and cards from that poor car owner's family whom we rescued that night. It still shocks me how the woman pretended to be pregnant to drive the suspicion off them. Hats off to Louise for having such marvelous observation power. A few years ago, it became popular to dress up as a clown and scare people. At first glance, this case does not seem to be very different, but as we will see in this dramatization, there is always a little more than meets the eye. Coulrophobia. That word means unjustified fear or phobia of clowns. I was never interested in clowns or people who were afraid of them. But since that night, it was all I could think about. That day, I had decided with my family to spend the night at a Chinese restaurant. We were a little late getting back, but we had a great time. The kids fell asleep in the car, and as soon as we got home, they climbed into their beds and went to sleep without us telling them. I was going to bed with my wife until the doorbell alerted us.
Huh? Who could be calling at this hour?
Should I go see?
I guess, honey, but be careful and don't open the door, okay?
Don't worry, Abby. I'll be fine. Hey, what happened? Is everything all right?
Oh, please, you must help me. My husband fell asleep and I ran away from home. He beats me every day. I thought he was gonna kill me this time.
Oh my God. Are you okay? Did you try calling the police?
Please, you must help. He's coming. He's gonna kill me. Open up.
I'm opening it right now. Hold on just a moment.
I began to shake the keys in agitation, but when I was about to open the door, an idea crossed my mind.
Madam, are you there?
Yes. Did you find the keys?
Madam, didn't you just tell me that when you ran away, your husband was sleeping?
Yes, but he woke up and started chasing me.
Is that so? If he was chasing you, how did he have so much time to wait for me to come down and have this talk with you? Lady, leave right now or I'm gonna call the police.
After a few seconds, I thought that woman was gone. I was ready to check the camera and send it to the police when suddenly, another voice rang out.
Excuse me, sir. I'm Timmy. I just got lost. Could you help me?
Is this some kind of sick joke? Get off my property now! I'm gonna call the police!
It would be a joke if you laughed. Can you please open up the door for me, please? It's freezing in here.
Sir, I'm not gonna answer you anymore. I'm calling the police. Just leave, or you'll get in trouble.
Ah! Open! Open! Open!
Terrified, I fall back and run to the kitchen.
Abby, call the police! Someone is trying to break into our house!
Meanwhile, I locked the back door in the kitchen, and just in case, I kept a knife in my pocket. I went to the dining room and started checking all the windows. I pulled back the window curtain, and my heart almost stopped at what I was seeing. Just 2 centimeters from my face, hidden behind the curtain, was a clown staring at me with a huge grin. I fell to the floor in fear. Slowly, he picked up the knife that I had just dropped and walked towards me, his grim gaze frozen on my body. Abby's scream rang throughout the house, but as I turned around, I realized she wasn't looking at me or my attacker. As I looked around the rest of the dining room, my eyes widened in shock. At the start, at least 5 clowns were emerging from the rest of the dining room curtains. They were all as creepy as the one in front of me. Had they been there all night? Had they planned this whole situation?
Alan, what's going on?
They seem to be focused on me. Walk slowly to the stairs and lock yourself in with the children until the police arrive.
But
Just go!
After Abby left, I noticed that the clown in front of me had stopped walking, but he was still looking in my direction, like all the other clowns. The doorbell rang once again, and a clown walked up to the door and opened it. Suddenly, a familiar voice began to speak, walking in my direction, furious.
Hey, it's Edward. My car just broke. Do you mind if I come into your house and, eat your family?
Enraged, the clown put a gun out of his pocket and put it to my head. All the other clowns seemed to look worried at what the clown with whom I just had a conversation was about to do. I watched as the clown pulled the safety off his gun and slowly pulled his finger on the trigger. There was no way I was going to survive. I closed my eyes, waiting for everything to pass as fast as possible. A few seconds later, I felt something cold running across my forehead. When I opened my eyes, the clown was still pulling the trigger, shooting me with a water gun. All the clowns looked at each other, and suddenly, they all burst out laughing.
Why? Why?
Why not?
On the side of the room, a clown was staring at me, talking while juggling.
Get out! The police are coming!
No need for you to clown around too. Your wife finished talking to them 3 minutes ago. We still have about 12 minutes to kill all of you.
Why are you doing this?
We don't have to have a reason to do this. At first, we just wanted to be popular, dress up as clowns and attack people and blah, blah, blah. But eventually, we got the hang of it, you know, and we weren't interested in fame anymore. We're not part of a cult, we're not part of the deep web, and we definitely don't want to steal from you. We just kill families like yours for fun.
You're crazy!
Doy, obviously we are. Hey, Jumpy, get the inflator. You know what happens when you use an inflator and helium balloons and shove them down a person's throat?
Please, let me go.
Don't you know? Well, neither do I. But after this, we'll have a little time to kill your family, but it will be worth it.
Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded outside my house. All the clowns became nervous and looked at each other.
What? The police? But they should be like 9 minutes away! Oh. Guys, the circus is over! Escape through the kitchen, now!
As soon as they showed up at my house, the clowns were gone. I ran to the door and was surprised not to see the police, but my neighbors who heard the shouting and activated the neighborhood alarm. A few minutes later, the police arrived. When we saw the footage of these men at the front door of my house, we could see that they had been planning this for many nights, examining the front door and surroundings of the house for hours. It wasn't enough for us to learn that the police caught these guys a few weeks later, so we moved out and never talked about it again. Today, I am terrified of clowns. Whenever you see a clown at a circus, restaurant, or in the street, remember to be careful, because what happened to me could happen to any of you. In the above footage, a drone camera was set up to capture videos of an abandoned amusement park. As the camera rolled over the water slide, it found a clown roaming inside this creepy abandoned park. The clown started to run once it spotted the camera. Following this creepy found footage, you will now see an animated, dramatized version. Let me start by saying that I grew up in Nashville. My mom worked 2 jobs while my brother and I stayed home by ourselves during the summer. I was the eldest at 13, and my younger brother, Joshua, was 10. We got along pretty well. Both of us didn't go out much, so our world revolved around 2 people, my mom and Grandpa, who we called Gramps. His home was about a 15-minute walk from ours. One particular day, Joshua said Gramps had called and told us to come over as soon as we could. We grabbed our bikes and sped to his house until sweat poured down our foreheads. We were expecting the worst, maybe a break-in. But when we walked inside, there was Gramps, sitting on his red high back chair with a smile on his face.
You'll never believe what I have here, boys.
He waved around 3 tickets in his hand. Joshua ran over to Gramps and reached for the tickets.
Hey, Nathan, we're going to a theme park!
He said with a smile spreading across his entire face.
What? Hell no!
I said in disbelief.
Language, son, and hell yes! I entered a contest a few months back, and the tickets just came.
This has to be some sort of trick. No way it's true! Why do you always gotta be that way, Nathan? Fine, we can go. But if we see anything weird, we're gonna leave that moment. Deal!
Gramps, Joshua, and I hopped into his Chevy. I was shocked to see that the invitation was located in such a ghetto area in the middle of nowhere. It was about a 30-minute drive.
There ain't no ghetto!
We need this kind of change, son. This will help our community. This theme park might raise our community right out of poverty.
I started to say, but Gramps interrupted me. Sure enough, the park was real. I could see the roller coasters and Ferris wheel in the background. The music from the carousel echoed throughout the parking lot. That's when I noticed the logo, but something seemed off about it. The lettering was somehow distorted. The entrance was empty. There wasn't a person in sight except for the attendant.
Welcome to Dreamland Park. Are you the lucky winners of the early passes?
Hell yes, we are!
Wonderful. Remember, the park is still under construction. We are trying our best to rejuvenate this place after being abandoned for so many years.
Sure, we understand.
Enjoy then. You're going to have a magical time.
When he smiled, all of his teeth were yellow, as if he hadn't brushed them in ages. He let out a creepy laugh while his belly trembled from the skin-tight green uniform. Joshua ran straight towards the biggest roller coaster. Gramps steadily ran after him.
I'll catch up to you,
I said, examining the park. From the corner of my eye, I saw 2 employees dressed the same as the attendant, standing at some distance. The employees were talking among themselves. I walked the opposite way to avoid them. But still, I just couldn't shake off the feeling that something was odd about this whole place. I steadily moved forward and found a funhouse that was under construction. I walked inside, hoping that the animatronics would be the only thing that I ran into. Instead, met me with a bunch of garbage lying all over the place. Broken, shattered pieces of glass were everywhere on the floor. As I walked through every room, I was greeted by spiderwebs and wild saplings growing in the damp walls until I reached the last section. It was a funhouse full of mirrors. But I wasn't the only one in there. I saw a guy dressed in a Bobo clown costume staring at me. I couldn't guess his exact position as his reflection was too many mirrors. Finally, he spoke in a low and sunken voice.
I feel so lonely out here. Why? Don't the employees talk to you? They're scared of me. They don't want people to know that I exist. But why? Because I wanted to eat. What? That's not anything to be scared about. I have some gum if you want. I don't like gum. I only eat one thing.
By the time I could figure out how weird this conversation was getting, it was too late. The clown let out an ear-to-ear smile and said,
I eat meat. Only human meat. What?
And that's when I heard Joshua scream out loud.
Looks like your brother spooked himself out.
I rushed out of the funhouse, straight to the direction from where his scream came from. When I reached there, I saw my brother and my grandpa staring at a bush nearby. Gramps was trying to comfort my younger brother as he got scared discovering this huge clown head lying in this abandoned park.
It's okay, Joshua. There's no one out there.
No, I saw him. The clown was there. I saw him, Gramps. I saw him. He was smiling at me while holding a big sharp knife.
I don't know why. That's when I felt the goosebumps. I looked at my grandpa and said,
Gramps, I think we should leave.
Gramps looked over at Joshua, who was in tears already.
Okay, let's go home.
He grabbed Joshua by the hand, and we ran as fast as we could to the exit. We came across that same attendant who let us in. He smiled and said,
What do you think of this place then? Do you like it?
Without answering his question, I said in an angry voice,
You guys better kick out those two clowns or else no one will come here. Creepy psychos. They scared my brother to...
But without letting me finish, the man said with a confused face,
We don't have clowns here. This place is still not open to hire. It's just the three of us working here.
The ground beneath my feet swept away. I saw a clown, and so did my brother. I know Joshua won't lie on such matters. My grandpa looked at me and asked,
What's going on?
with shivering lips. I replied,
Please take us home. But you didn't see the major attractions. Don't you want to be the first one to enjoy this place?
We've seen enough!
Come on, let me give you a personal tour. I promise you won't be
Let it be, son. We will come back some other time.
Hearing my grandpa's serious voice, the man stopped pushing us. He too guessed that something was not right here. We started to walk back to the car when the attendant yelled from behind.
Thank you. Come again soon.
The two of us didn't say a word the entire way, even though Gramps kept asking us about those clowns. Joshua locked himself in his room after we reached home. I banged on his door, but he didn't come out. I had to call Mom to come get us. We told her everything, and that's when her face turned pale. She looked at my grandpa and said with a fearful voice,
You went to the abandoned theme park today?
Feeling a little embarrassed for all that happened to Joshua, my grandpa said in an apologetic voice,
They're renovating this place, and I won the tickets, so I thought it would be fun to...
Are you crazy? Don't you know what happened there last night?
Why? What happened?
A few truckers reported killer clowns roaming that area. One of them even got robbed and stabbed in the back while trying to escape them. I can't believe the employees let you in.
Eventually, the cops raided the theme park that night and didn't find anyone. Not the clowns, not those two employees, and not even the freaky attendant. Now, when I think about it, I realize it was all a trap. They were probably in this all together. A gang of thugs, among which 2 people dressed as those freaky clowns, and the other 3 let us in to become their scapegoats. I feel lucky every day that we decided to leave that place before it would have been too late. God knows what would have happened if we agreed to take that personal tour. The attendant was so excited to take us home.
We can't answer the door right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, you can do it now.
Hey, just wondering if you guys saw a lost puppy. He's a pit bull. Blue nose. I believe he came in your yard, but I don't want to look without your permission.
Hey, you at the wrong house, dog.
In this footage, you can see a man with his face covered by a bandana, sunglasses, and a cap, who continually takes a gun out of his pants pocket. He is knocking on the door of a house and asks permission to enter the yard so he can look for his puppy. When the owner doesn't allow it, the man leaves, but that doesn't guarantee that he won't come back. The story you are about to see is a dramatized animated version of this scary found footage. I've always known how dangerous this world is. During my childhood, my Hispanic mom used to be very cautious. In fact, she took care of me too intensely, in my opinion. But ever since I became the dad of my two adorable twin daughters, Ava and Ella, I've started to understand my mom better. Out there, we are always in danger. You never know what kind of maniac who wants to hurt your children, your partner, or who you will meet. But have you ever thought that they could come to the door of your own house? It was a Sunday, the day it happened. My family and I were all home, enjoying a lunch that my wife and I had prepared.
Daddy,
Yes, Ava?
can Ella and I go play with the neighbor when we finish eating?
We'll have to.
Girls, we already decided to stay home today. Yesterday was a very tiring day. Wouldn't you prefer to stay here?
But Mommy,
Your mom is right. Didn't you play with your cousins enough yesterday?
can we go alone?
Immediately, the answer to her question formed in my mind. Our daughters were only 6 years old, so they were too young to go on their own just yet.
No, girls, I'm sorry.
But Daddy,
You'll have to play at home today.
After that, we continued to eat normally, although my daughters seemed upset. I was talking to my wife about work matters when suddenly something started to sound. It was the front door. Someone was knocking.
I thought you weren't expecting anyone today, darling.
Maybe it's a neighbor.
I'll go see.
I soon got up and walked out of the dining room towards the front door of our house. Before I could get up, the person knocked on it again.
Hey, just wondering if you guys saw a lost puppy. He's a pit bull. Blue nose. I believe he came in your yard, but I don't want to look without your permission.
Hey, you at the wrong house, dog.
I carefully watched the man turn and walk away. Even though the bandana, sunglasses, and cap he was wearing didn't allow me to see his face, he didn't look like any of the surrounding neighbors. Why would a person come to walk his dog here, and how could he lose them? The situation was very strange, but mostly, I was worried about how covered he was, so I was relieved that he was gone. I guess I returned to the dining room with a worried expression on my face, as Emily's smile, who was laughing in the company of our daughters, faded and was replaced by concern as soon as she saw me arrive. It didn't take long for her to get up and walk towards me.
Mommy?
When she reached my side, she took my arm and led me out of sight of the girls.
Are you okay, honey? What happened? Who was there?
A man.
A man? Who?
I don't know. He wasn't a neighbor. I couldn't even see his face. He was wearing a bandana, sunglasses, and a cap.
What? Oh my god. Oh my god, what did he tell you?
Something about a lost puppy he saw wandering into our yard? He wanted us to give him permission to enter. I don't know what kind of people he thought we were, but, I'm not that dumb.
Oh my. Has he left? Did you see him walk away?
Yes, darling. He's already gone.
Since I noticed that my wife was on the verge of an anxiety attack, I gave her a hug for several seconds. When we parted, she said,
I'm not hungry anymore, honey. I'll start cleaning.
Together we returned to the dining room, where our daughters were laughing as they finished their lunch, totally oblivious to what had happened. Seeing me, Ava shouted,
Daddy, can we go play?
Of course you can, my girls. But you have to finish your food first.
Yes, Daddy.
Looking at my daughters in high spirits made me the happiest person in the world. But that joy faded once the man appeared in my mind. I tried to stop thinking about him when I walked into the kitchen. I couldn't help but notice that my wife's hands were shaking as she washed the dishes. In fact, at one point, She slipped one of the glasses and it fell to the floor. Of course, it broke.
Honey, I'll take care of this. Go rest.
I continued washing the dishes when suddenly I heard the sliding doors that connected the house with the garden were opened. I immediately started running towards it, but luckily, it was only my daughters who were there.
What's wrong, Daddy?
Didn't I tell you that you can't go out?
But you let us play in the garden.
You didn't tell me it would be in the garden. Just stay in the house.
Both of them did as I told them, while their eyes filled with tears. I didn't like yelling at my daughters, but I was really nervous. I started to take deep breaths to calm down when I began to hear something moving in the bushes. Concerned, I approached them. It was then that I saw him. There, sitting on the ground to hide, was a boy. He was perhaps only a little older than my daughters. He was dirty. His skin was bruised all over, and it looked like he hadn't slept or eaten in days. I was really confused, but what I did understand was that the child was in danger since his face expressed terror. Before I could speak, he put his index finger between his lips, trying to ask me to keep quiet.
What a coincidence.
A voice was heard behind me, so I didn't hesitate to turn around. My heart started beating fast when I saw the man. I immediately had a bad feeling about the boy.
What are you doing here? Get out!
You gave me no choice. I had to come find my lost puppy.
There is no puppy here. Go away.
Don't lie to me, man. He's right there with you. Come here, puppy.
The boy looked at me with fear and began to cry while shaking his head.
Don't you have a brain, dog? Come here right now.
If you try to get close to him, I'll call the police.
You wouldn't dare, coward.
Suddenly, the man pulled a gun out of his pants pockets and pointed it at me. At that moment, I was in shock. I began to feel how my skin was covered with sweat due to nerves.
Give me my puppy. Or would you rather die?
I didn't know what to do, so I stayed put. Luckily, a police car was soon heard arriving, which scared the man and made him leave. Apparently, he had gone to the houses of other neighbors, and one of them had called the police. I soon took the boy with them and told them everything that had happened. We later learned that the kid was on the missing list after being kidnapped by that man. When he had the opportunity, he managed to escape and hid in the garden of my house. Police are still searching for that man. Meanwhile, I can't help but worry about my daughters. In fact, I still clearly hear the way the man called the boy puppy. Have you ever witnessed something inexplicable that when you tell it, nobody believes you? I bet on those occasions, you wished you had a camera in your hand so you could record it and show it as proof that what you saw was real. Well, believe me, that's actually much worse. A few weeks ago, I got a new job. I was happy because I would be paid much better and it was more suited to my skills. The only problem was that it was much farther from my house than the previous one. And furthermore, it finished in the afternoon when the sun was already beginning to hide. Since there were more benefits, I didn't pay much attention to this. After all, I don't mind driving on the highway at night. But my wife, Millie, who at that point was in her second trimester of pregnancy, was extremely concerned.
I don't know, honey. I don't like the idea.
In order to allay her fear, I installed a dash cam in the car. Thus, the days passed without any problem. On Tuesday, during the second week of work, I finished a little later than usual, so it didn't take long for me to get a call from my wife.
Duncan, is everything all right?
Yeah, dear, I'm fine. I'm on my way.
Once I left the company, the night sky was already waiting for me. Carefree, I walked to my car, which was parked next to a lamppost. I wanted to get home as soon as I could, so I wouldn't make my dear wife nervous. Before I started driving, I turned on the necessary car lights for the night. Although the light coming from the shops and restaurants around the street was more than enough. But it didn't take me long to get away from that town. Little by little, the buildings around me were replaced by grass and trees. There was less and less light, although every certain distance, a lamppost illuminated the area. I had already been driving down that road the whole week before, so I had it relatively memorized. And besides, I knew it wasn't that frequented, so it was a surprise to see a car driving in front of me. The red lights of the vehicle helped me to detect how far away it was from me. That was how, all of a sudden, I could notice that it was stopping.
What?
As soon as I evaded the person, I braked my car. It was at that moment that I realized I was holding my breath.
What the?
My heart was beating very fast, and the many thoughts that were going through my head were making me dizzy. I couldn't drive the car like this. What had that been? Why was there a person in the middle of the street during the night? I had only seen him for a few seconds, but I was sure he had no arms and no face. To make sure I hadn't imagined it, I looked in the rearview mirror. Seeing that the man was still there, motionless, didn't calm me down. Even though I was really shocked, I decided to get out of the car. I mean, what if that guy needed help? What if he was drunk or high? Would I let him stay there at the risk of being run over by someone? I turned off my car, took out the keys, opened the door, and then closed it again after I got out. It could also be a joke or a way to try to rob me, so I didn't want to let my guard down. Little by little, I got closer to the man who was standing next to a lamppost, so I could see him relatively clearly. Even though I was looking at his back, I was still not sure if he had arms or not.
Hello?
I didn't receive any answer.
Are you okay, man? Do you need any help? Are you hurt? I have a cell phone here. I mean, you can call someone if you need...
This time, the person shook gently. I wasn't sure what that meant, but at least he was beginning to respond.
Listen, I don't usually do this, but I'm on my way home. It's not too far. I could take you somewhere if... Huh?
Some strange sounds began to be heard. It seemed as if the man wanted to speak, but he couldn't.
Hey, do you...
Suddenly, the man began to shake vigorously.
Hey!
It was then, after I screamed, that he turned around.
My God!
The instant I saw him, I felt as if my heart had stopped. A shiver ran down my spine, and I began to sweat. It was just as I had thought at first. The man had no face. The places where his eyebrows, nose, and lips should have been had strange scars, and of course, there were 2 holes through which he could breathe. It looked as if all that had been cut off and the skin had been burnt. He kept shaking and groaning, as if he wanted to do something to fix himself. But the man couldn't even touch anything, as he had no arms.
What the hell?
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even move. The man seemed very desperate. Suddenly, he started running in the direction of the forest.
Wait!
I tried to warn him that he would end up hitting a tree, but the man didn't stop until one of his shoulders touched the trunk of one of them. After emitting one of his strange groans again, he moved his head backwards and then thrust it forward forcefully. Some noisy banging began to be heard. The man was beating his face against the tree.
Stop it!
I didn't think he was going to listen to me, but in fact, he stopped and turned around. His burnt face was now full of bruises. The man started running into the forest, and soon his silhouette disappeared. Once he was gone, I was able to move again. This situation had disturbed me so much that I threw up on the grass and then returned to the car. I had several missed calls from my wife. When I got home, I told Millie everything that happened. I even showed her the dashcam footage. Still, my wife didn't believe me.
Honey, try to calm down, okay? You're home now. It was just a really bad joke.
As much as I wanted to think that was the case, I knew she was wrong. I knew what I had seen. Since then, I have not been able to sleep well, because every night I have nightmares in which this man without a face appears. I've even gotten to the point of obsessing over the situation. I've began to wonder who could have done such an atrocity to a human being. And besides, I've been looking at the missing persons list. But how could I find him if he didn't even have a face to identify? The footage you just saw is taken at an IHOP outlet. Everyone was having their usual meal when a drunk guy approached one of the customers, spitting profanities at him. The customer couldn't tolerate his crazy behavior and threw him a strong punch, making him collapse on the ground. The story you are about to see is an animated, dramatized version of this crazy footage taken inside. It was a Friday evening, and my roommate, Justin, and I drove down to IHOP as we were craving pancakes. Honestly, I loved their pancakes. They were the best in town. So, we drove down to the IHOP located near the highway, parked our car, and went in. The restaurant was not crowded and also not empty, if you know what I mean. There were families and young boys and girls sitting in the restaurant enjoying their time. Justin and I picked a table near the big glass window and sat down to eat. A cute girl dressed as a waitress came to take our order.
Welcome to IHOP. What would you like to order today?
I'll have the buttermilk pancake, and I'll have a Belgian dark chocolate mousse.
I'll be right back with your orders.
The waitress went to the counter, and we started chatting among ourselves. So far, everything was going just fine when we heard the restaurant door open and a guy similar to our age walked in. Judging his body language, Justin whispered to me.
Whoa, that dude seems drunk. You don't say.
I replied to Justin without taking my eyes off him. He somehow walked to this table and threw himself on the chair, making the chair almost turn over. Even though I thought he would fall, but he didn't. No one paid much attention to him at first. We also ignored the guy. A few seconds later, the same waitress who took our order walked over to this guy's table and asked,
Welcome to IHOP, sir. May I take your order?
The man lifted his face and checked out the girl from top to bottom, which made the girl uncomfortable, and then said in a rough voice,
What kind of a stupid question is that? Of course you should take my order.
Yes? What would you like to have?
Instead of answering the girl, he laughed creepily and then said,
Well, I would like to have you, but as I can't, give me some strawberry banana pancakes.
I don't have to tell you how embarrassed the waitress felt by the remark, but hats off to her professionalism. She still smiled and nodded her head in agreement. She then went back to the counter just like she came. Being pissed off by the man's behavior, I said to Justin,
Somebody should kick him out. Come on, let it be. That's none of our business anyway. Also, the guy is too drunk to understand what he's saying. Then he shouldn't have come here. It's a public place after all, not his house. Yo, chill, dude. Relax.
Justin requested me to calm down eventually. I did. After 5 minutes, the waitress came and served our food. As soon as she placed the plates on our table, the guy started going nuts. He stood up and screamed at the waitress.
Hey, how come you don't have my order?
Getting confused, the waitress looked around her and then said in a fearful voice,
They ordered before you, sir.
I don't care. Bring me my food first.
Sir, you need to calm down and behave.
What did you say? I need to behave?
The man went extremely close to that waitress's face and screamed at her. His spit sprayed on her face and uniform as he screamed so loudly.
I don't need to behave, lady. It's you who needs to learn how to treat your customers. Who gave you this job?
Sir, I'm telling you for the last and final time, sit down and wait your turn for your order. These customers were here first. I'm doing my job right, so don't you dare try to teach me.
The waitress lost it too, which was quite fair. And now the entire restaurant was observing the man being a prick for no reason. But he didn't sit down. Instead, He grabbed the salt shaker from the table and threw it on the floor so hard that it shattered into pieces, scattering salt everywhere. And he just didn't stop at that. He raised his hands and pushed the waitress away with force, making her fall to the ground. The girl fell hard on the floor and started crying in pain. That's when I couldn't be a spectator anymore. Anger boiled up in my blood, and I screamed at the guy.
You freak! Apologize to her right now if you don't want to end up dead.
Now his eyes shifted on me, and a sick smile appeared on his face. He took a few steps close to me, looked me in the eye, and said,
Why are you taking her side, sonny boy? Is she giving you more than those pancakes?
Justin got up and intervened, saying,
You are crossing your limits now, man.
The guy again smiled and moved his face too close to mine and screamed at me while spitting.
Tell your sidekick to shut up. Does he not know how to respect people?
No, he does. It's just that we don't respect mad dogs.
Saying this, I threw a sucker punch at the man, which made him fly into the air and fall on his back, hitting his head on the floor. Even in his wildest dream, the man never expected to get punched like that, so it took some time for him to figure things out and get back on his feet. Once he did, he rolled up his sleeves and came at me screaming.
I'll show you a lesson!
Come on, I can take it, you drunk.
He jumped onto me, and we both fell to the floor, tackling each other. We started grappling with each other, and I went on kicking and punching him as if it were the last day of my life. The man, being drunk and not too strong in comparison to me, started to lose the fight. All the people at the restaurant took out their phones, and instead of trying to separate us, they began recording our fight. Justin jumped up from behind, and the manager finally came to get the man away from me. Once we were separated, I had a bruised jaw, but the man was completely knocked out. The cops were called, and they took him away for creating damage and violence in public. The waitress came to thank me for standing up for her. As angry as I was at that drunk, I was even angrier at the people present at the restaurant. Once the cops took him away, I yelled to all the customers while pointing at the waitress.
You know, any of you could have been in her shoes today. So instead of losing your mind over social media, maybe next time stand up for what's right. Because if any one of you faces something like this, and people start recording you instead of helping, it won't be that fun then.
Justin and I tipped the waitress to make her awful day a little better and returned home after finishing our pancakes.
In the above footage, some kids go to the House of Terror of an amusement park. At the end of it, you can see how a man tries to scare them. What they don't know is that he was not part of the attraction. Following this creepy found footage, you will now see an animated dramatized version. Today is the 2nd anniversary of that day, the day that changed my life. That day, we were partying with our college friends. We had recently passed our exams, and since we all did well, Chris, Barry, and I were supposed to meet Tyler, who was about to quit his job at the amusement park. We always thought it was the best job in the world, but it wasn't for him, a shy, introverted person who preferred not to have to deal with people. Because he was going to quit his job the next day and leave the country to study abroad, Tyler told us to go to the park at night so we could have the party of our lives. An amusement park all to ourselves, all night, or until the police discovered us, to which we had an escape plan and keys to the back door. We snuck into the park and entered with a copy of the key Tyler had left us. And as we entered, the lights came on and our friend greeted us.
Rosie, Barry, and Chris, nice to welcome you to my quarters.
Wow, this place looks huge without people.
Are you sure these lights won't disturb the neighbors? What about the cameras? Don't worry. We always turn this place on at night for mechanical testing, and I've taken care of the cameras myself, so you have nothing to worry about. You heard him, guys. Nothing to worry about. Which game are we going to first? I definitely want to go to the Mountain of Terror.
Well, duh. Of course, we're going there first. As we headed there, Tyler stopped us with a determined voice.
Wait! You can't go there yet! I have to activate it separately. You guys go around the park and I'll let you know, okay?
Oh, okay, we can wait.
I mean, we have a whole park to ourselves. Let's go!
Without paying much attention to our friends, we went around and explored the park. Although we had fun watching the rides and playing some games that didn't require an operator, I didn't feel comfortable at all. I'd never noticed how lonely, quiet, and spooky a park made for people to have fun could feel. It was as if the laughter of the children brought life to a place that could easily be the home of a killer clown. I was trapped in my thoughts until we saw from afar the lights of the Mountain of Terror turn on, and we ran like children. When we arrived, we didn't see Tyler, but a very deep voice greeted us from a speaker.
Welcome to the Mountain of Terror. Get ready for a night you will never forget. Rosie, Chris, and Barry, welcome to the last day of your lives.
Did he pay someone for that recording? Wow, Tyler really takes this seriously.
Suddenly, the doors opened, and a gray fenced cage arrived. The cage stopped in front of us, and the doors opened. We all got on the ride, the doors closed, and the game began. The attraction started out pretty basic, with some skulls appearing in front of us, and some animatronics of clowns and monkeys jumping, what we expected. But after a few seconds, something strange started to happen. The speed of the cage was changing in a strange way. It was getting slower and slower, but then suddenly it would have bursts of speed that caused us to fall over.
We are sorry to inform you that we have a technical failure. A fire was detected in the next part of the attraction. Get off the cage as fast as you can.
What?
Terrified, Barry started to try to open the gate, but it wouldn't budge. Hey, calm down. This is Tyler's work. The voice said our names, remember? It's a pre-recorded voice. There's no fire ahead. My words seemed to calm him down. He even gave a shy laugh.
It seems the bastard really wanted to make this game fun for us.
As the game progressed, we came across an animatronic of a mime ready to scare us. But instead, a man in a skull mask jumped against the fence, scaring us to death. We all jumped back in fear as the attraction continued. A few seconds later, the lights went out, and opening its doors in the process, the cage stopped.
Damn, Tyler. He even went to the trouble of disguising himself?
No, it can't be him. It takes someone to stop the game and play with the speeds.
Does this mean he invited someone else to scare us? Is he out of his mind?
Whatever it is, I don't think this is going to go any further. He stopped it, so we have to walk.
Damn lunatic.
Terrified, we advanced on foot, giving little screams with each scare at the attraction. We were about to finish the game. We looked ahead, and the exit doors were closed, but we still decided to advance toward them through a long black tunnel in which we could only see the little light that came out from under the exit door. We started banging on them so that Tyler would open them for us.
Show's over, asshole! Let us out!
Chris shouted patiently.
Hey, look behind us.
When we both turned around, on the other side of the tunnel, in the darkness, the silhouette of the same man we found at the side of the mime was standing with a lantern in his hand.
Oh my god! Hey, asshole! Time to tell Tyler to open the door!
Chris, wait!
Come on, guys! This whole show was scary and we should give him credit, but leaving us locked in here is just annoying!
Meanwhile, the silhouette just kept standing, expectant of Chris, who was heading in his direction.
Who the hell are you? Ethan? Diego?
When Chris got close enough, the man lifted half of his mask and revealed his lips, torn and burned. With them, he blew out the lantern's fire, and from one moment to the next, the cave was completely dark again.
Ah! Help! Open the door! Ah!
Even though we couldn't see anything, Chris's screams echoed throughout the cave. Neither of us dared to move. As soon as they started, they finished. After a few seconds of total silence, Heavy footsteps began to advance in our direction.
Ah! Help! Open the door! Ah!
Please get us out of here! Help!
And so the three heroes found themselves in a dilemma. The doors were closed, the darkness was devouring them, and the monsters were getting closer and closer. Who will save them?
When the man was about to reach us, a ray of light invaded the cave, and one of the two doors opened. On the other side was Tyler, laughing loudly. We quickly escaped the cave and faced him.
Best horror house ever, right guys?
Furious, Barry grabbed him by the neck and pressed him against the closed door.
What the fuck, asshole? We thought we were gonna die. Oh, come on, guys. You can't take a joke? Where's your sense of humor?
Tyler was still laughing like a lunatic. His introverted and calm personality was totally gone. It was like he was a new person.
Chris was part of the joke too? Who's the man in the costume?
Maybe he's a ghost. Oh, whatever. Is your asshole friend gonna stay in there? What? Seriously, guys, what are you talking about?
You know what we're talking about. The masked idiot inside the game.
What? No, I don't know what... Who are you? Stop! Stop!
Tyler!
No!
After a few seconds, no more screams were heard from Tyler. Terrified, we fell silent, and silence took over the entire park. The door behind the game began to open slowly, and even in the shadows, terrifying eyes stared at us from behind them. Without a word, we ran and ran. At times, we turned around to see if there was anyone behind us, but no one was following us. That didn't stop us from running until eventually we got out of the amusement park. As soon as we got out, someone turned off the lights from inside, and the place just went silent. Since no one knew we were going to the amusement park, no one knew what happened to Tyler and Chris. To the world, they just disappeared without a trace. The roller coaster ran normally the next day, and no one saw anything out of the ordinary. Barry and I promised ourselves not to talk about it, as no one would believe us, and it would only make us suspects of a crime we didn't commit. After that day, I could never go to an amusement park again, for fear that this masked man might be out there, looking to finish the job. I was in college when, for some extra income, I took a job at a massage parlor. My roommate, Kathy, hooked me up with the services, and we both used to do massage therapies there. Our work times were different, though. Kathy worked in the afternoons, and I in the evenings. The parlor used to close around 8, so I was usually home before it was too late. The job paid well and fit right in with my study schedule. It was a Friday afternoon, and I had to study for an upcoming exam, so I called the massage parlor owner to let him know that I wouldn't be able to work that day. Kathy took my shift for some extra cash and left for work. The day went by just like that. When I was finally done, I noticed the time on the clock. It was 8. I was waiting for Kathy to come back so we could go out for dinner. 15 minutes later, Kathy came home. I was about to ask her where she would like to go for dinner, but her behavior surprised me. She slammed the door hard and cursed someone in anger.
Ah, bloody creep. Hey, what happened?
Don't even ask. I have never felt so humiliated in my entire life. Calm down. Sit here and tell me. What's the matter? She drank water and then sat beside me on the couch. Her face looked infuriated with hatred and anger, and I could tell something very serious had happened.
Today, I got a client named Buck.
I've never seen someone as disgusting as him. He said he'd like to get a massage without covering himself with a sheet or a towel. Oh, what a creep. Well, things didn't end there. The entire time he kept laughing and making weird sounds, which were very uncomfortable. And finally, when I was done, he made me put on his shoes for him. God, it was awful. Kathy went on cursing and ranting about this creepy client. We canceled our plan for dinner and stayed home that night. The next day, after my afternoon classes, I returned home to get freshened up and went to the massage parlor to do my usual hours. As soon as I entered the parlor and checked with the receptionist about the clients, she told me a man named Buck had come for a second session. I immediately realized that this Buck was that creepy client Kathy had talked about. I could have said no, but then I already missed one day and I needed the money, so I decided to see him. I went inside the massage cabin, lit some candles for a therapeutic atmosphere, and waited for the man to enter. After just 5 seconds of waiting, a tall man, nearly 7 feet tall, with a thick unibrow and a sharp, pointy nose, entered the room wearing a towel. He was extremely hairy, just like Kathy explained. His nostrils were huge, and I could see his filthy nose hair poking out from them. His arms and legs were covered in thick, black, bushy hair. His chest and stomach were like a rainforest where groups of mosquitoes could easily get lost. Not just that, the man had a striking body odor. His teeth were all rotten and yellow, and when he smiled ear to ear, the red flags in my head started going off.
Aren't you gonna tell me to lie down?
Of course, the very first sentence that came out of his mouth sounded creepy. I behaved as professionally as I could. Sure, lie down. The man laid on the bed, on his back, and God, I imagined how filthy it would be to touch this guy. He was so hairy, and for the first time, I regretted not having gloves during a massage session. I grabbed the oil and started pouring it on his back. That's when he started to get even more creepy.
I like it wet, you know. So you're gonna need to pour a lot of oil on me.
I see.
What is your name?
I'm Jennifer. For safety and personal reasons, Kathy and I both asked the owner to let us use fake names. The man went on talking, even though I tried to act disinterested.
Is it okay if I call you Jenny?
Yeah, whatever.
You don't look very happy in this job, huh?
I wanted to tell him that it wasn't the job, but him that made it uncomfortable. But he was the one paying at the end, so I smiled awkwardly and said, "No, it's fine."
If you ask me, then you are perfect for this job. Your hands have magic. Tell me, Jenny, do you attend to your client personally? Maybe at their home? I can pay you $100.
Sorry, but I don't see clients outside the massage parlor.
Seems like I will have to come here then for your services.
Without paying further attention to his proposal, I kept quiet. That's when he started making bizarre demands. He suddenly rolled aside, now facing up, staring dead into my eyes, and said,
I'm done on the back. Why don't you pay some attention to my chest now, Jenny?
His chest was the hairiest part of his body. He didn't ask anything explicit, so reluctantly I agreed and started putting oil on his chest. As I went to rub the oil, he suddenly gripped my hand tightly, so tight that it almost gave me bruises, and said,
I can go to your place if you don't want to come in mine, Jenny. Think about it. $100 for just one session. Don't you need money?
I still kept my calm and replied in a firm voice. Sir, you need to let go of my hand. A no is a no, so if you want this session to continue, then you better just be quiet or I'll be forced to report you to the owner.
You are a strong-willed woman.
Saying this, he let go of my hand, and then kept quiet for the rest of the session. Once I was done, he got up and sat on the bench, watching me. Feeling cringed, I said, "Well, you need to pay at the counter, sir. My job is done here."
No, it's not.
Excuse me?
You still have to help me put on my shoes.
What? I'm sorry, but I don't do anything like that.
But another girl here did.
Not me. It's my choice. Please pay at the counter and leave. He began to scream at me.
You are my slave. I am paying you, you witch. So you better do exactly what I ask you to do. Tie my shoes now.
This is where I lost it. I slapped the man hard on the cheek. I then screamed louder than him.
Look, you freak! I'm not your slave! Go home to your mother and ask her to fulfill all your creepy desires. Either you pay and leave, or I'll make sure you rot in jail for your psycho behavior.
The man quickly stood up, wrapped his towel around his waist, and started walking to the door to leave. As he opened the door, he turned back to look at me for one last time and said,
My offer's still open. I'll leave my address on the receipt. And the payment will be double if you and your roommate both come to massage me.
I could feel my legs freeze as he left, saying this. The fact that he knew so much about me and Kathy scared the hell out of me. After returning home, I told Kathy everything, and we both decided to leave the massage parlor and the apartment for our safety. Once we moved out, we never came in contact with that hairy freak again. I pray he burns in hell.
Hello. Hi. Okay, who are you? Good. You need to leave. How fast? How quick? What? What's the... Let's go upstairs. Come on, where are you going? What's the stairs? Goodbye.
In this video, we can see how a young man, who seems to be under the influence of some drug, wants to enter a house. The owner of the house manages to get him out before it is too late. What he didn't know is that this was not going to be the last time he would see him. The story you are about to see is a dramatized animated version of this found footage. My name is Alan, and I live in a small town outside the city with my daughter Susie, who is only 9 years old. Normally, this is a very quiet town. We know all the neighbors, and when someone new comes in, we immediately realize that they are not from here. The place is so safe that we even leave our cars unlocked and our bikes outside. We feel so safe that many neighbors even leave their front door unlocked, knowing that no one is going to break in. It's nice to live with that peace of mind. During that night, Susie was already in bed, waiting for me to go upstairs and tell her a bedtime story. I was going to go upstairs with her, but I heard a beep at the door. It was my camera alarm. Someone had tried to break in. Luckily, I had left the door locked that day. I still had the habit from when I lived in the city. The neighbors always questioned my locking the door and the fact that I had a camera on the door, but I told them that I would eventually get over it. And a lot of confidence in whoever was at the door, I approached and opened the door without asking who it was. Surely it was a neighbor who was locked out or needed some tools. When I opened the door, a young man was waiting on the other side. The young man was shaking, but he didn't look scared. His eyes were going in different directions as he was sweating. He didn't look angry, but he looked like a rabid animal that at any moment could have a screw loose.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
Who are you?
Aaron Reynolds. I'm a neighbor.
Good. You need to leave.
The man didn't answer me. He just stared at me.
Out there? Out there.
What's the water pressure?
What?
What's the water pressure?
Come on. Where are you going?
What's the water pressure?
Goodbye. What was that?
As I watched the cameras, I saw how the man was still there, trying to force the door. He wasn't even trying to kick it or break it in. He was just trying to open it as if it was unlocked. I grabbed my phone to call the police, and as the number dialed, I turned to look at the camera again, and the man was gone. Over the next few days, I watched as the police passed the block over and over again. This should have made me feel safer, but it only made me think that they still hadn't found the man. I didn't feel safe leaving my daughter alone in the house while a psychopath was on the loose, so I took her shopping with me. One day, Susie was late getting changed, so I went upstairs to hurry her up.
Susie, come on, honey, we're gonna be late.
As I opened the door and looked ahead, I dropped my keys and my eyes widened wider than they had ever been. As Susie innocently played with a toy car, the psycho from the other night was behind her, sitting on the floor, combing her hair. My heart started beating wildly, and I began to breathe hard and sweat. My whole body was cramping, but I couldn't scream. It would scare Susie.
What are you doing here? I was combing Susie's hair while she played with her car.
You also came to check the water pressure.
Yes. I came to see that, too.
His appearance was a mirror of the other time. The man was trembling nervously and breathing heavily. He seemed absolutely focused on combing my daughter's hair, who was unaware of the danger she was in.
Susie, sweetheart, I told you that you shouldn't talk to strangers.
Saying this was a bad decision. I could see how the man got annoyed with my answer. He began to tremble more and more, and his eyes pointed in my direction. But what scared me the most about this was not the man, but my daughter's response.
But Daddy, Aaron is not a stranger.
What do you mean, Pumpkin?
He's with us every night. He always walks down the hall when it's bedtime.
My blood froze.
You're gonna kick me out again, aren't you? Aaron, can you come over here? I just want to talk. You're lying. You want to kick me out.
Still combing my daughter's hair, the man turned red. He was breathing wildly like a caged monkey. His dirty fingernails started to tear the floor, and his gaze, lost, focused only to look at me furiously.
Sir, I don't want to be rude, but I'm getting very upset. And when I get upset, I can't control myself. I get kind of mean.
Slow down, Aaron. You're hurting me.
This was a delicate situation. The only reason Susan didn't realize her life was in danger was that her back was turned and she couldn't see the man's face, who looked on the verge of collapse.
No, not at all, Aaron. I just want you to help me check the water pressure. Oh, but I've already checked it. Well, I guess I can do it again. Come with me, Susie.
I was about to say no, but this man could snap and hurt my daughter, so I went along with it. I walked alongside them, looking for an opportunity to attack the man, but it was impossible. I was too close to Susie. When we got to the basement, I opened the door and the man became happy and distracted. This was my chance. I pushed him into the basement and quickly closed the door. I pulled it with my whole body.
Help! We're being robbed! Help!
Dad, you locked him up. Let him go. He hasn't done anything.
While my daughter was crying and pushing me, the man was kicking at the door desperately, trying to get in. At the same time, I was screaming, hoping someone would hear me. Alerted by my neighbors, the police soon arrived. The man's kicking and screaming were over, but when the police descended into the basement, I never expected what I was about to see. The basement was empty. A hole in the upstairs window and a pile of boxes not only revealed that he had entered through there, but we also found food on the floor and used sheets. While the police searched for him all over town, the man was under my own roof, sleeping in my basement. In the days that followed, I filled the windows with cement and locked the basement. The police asked me not to tell anyone about what happened in our small town, as they did not want media attention. The whole town found out what happened. They were never able to catch this man, and it is suspected that he is no longer in town. But from that day on, no neighbor leaves the door of his house open. In the above footage, a customer can be seen arguing with a Denny's front desk employee. The employee tries to explain to her about an order malfunction, but the woman is so angry that she just can't tolerate the employee anymore and ends up splashing the spicy soup on her face. What happened next will be presented through a dramatized animated version ahead.
Sometimes you meet the best people in life, and sometimes you meet the worst. In my case, I met both at the same time. A year back, I was going through a tough time financially. My mom died due to alcohol abuse and left a huge debt behind for me to take over. I was dreaming about going to law school and joining a respected law firm after graduation, but all that went away with her death. As sad as I was for losing my mom, I was also sad, thinking I might have lost the chance to turn my life around, honestly. After crying myself to sleep almost every night, I finally decided to gear up and face the situation. I promised myself that I would work for the whole year to save money. Thank God we still had the house, and no matter how deeply attached I was to it, I had no other way than to sell it to repay the debt. When I got rid of the debt, I found myself having nothing but a bunch of clothes and my mom's old car. I slept in the car 3 nights straight because I couldn't afford to rent a room at a hotel. Those 3 days, I spent my mornings hunting for any job that would pay. On the 3rd day, I finally found an opening at the local Denny's. It was a front desk job. The owner, Rodrigo, was a serious man who barely chit-chatted with the employees. He handed me a uniform and said,
"There are 2 rules of this place. First, you must greet the customers with a smile even if they had to be forced. And second, under no circumstances can you lose your calm. Remember, customers are our priority."
"Sure, I'll do my best."
"Good. We'll see you tomorrow."
I was finally happy that day. The next morning, I showed up 5 minutes beforehand. I was dying to get paid, so I did my job with utmost sincerity. I worked as a cashier, and no matter how weird, rude, or creepy the customers were, I greeted them with a smile while saying, "Welcome to Denny's. May I take your order?" The other employees who worked there were also nice to me. In a way, things started looking up for me. It was a busy Friday night. The restaurant was booming with customers, and watching people eat with their family and friends made me feel lonely. I won't say I was distracted, but I kind of got caught up in my thoughts when a customer yelled at me, "Are you gonna take my order or what?" Her voice was so coarse that a few customers sitting close to the counter stopped talking and looked in her direction. I quickly got my act together and said in an apologetic voice, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Welcome to Denny's. Can I please take your order?" Calling her ma'am cooled her down. She frowned a little and then said, "A cup of soup. And remember, I want the soup hot, like flaming hot. Can you do that, stupid girl?" It felt bad when she called me stupid, but I remembered Rodrigo's rule number 2, so I kept my calm. I nodded my head with a forced, fake smile and said, "Of course, ma'am. Will that be all?" She looked me up and down in a very weird way and then said, "Why? Do you think I can't afford anything else?" No, I just wanted to know if I could be of any more help, ma'am. It's our job to follow the complete requirements of the customers. I don't know where all that stuff came from, but I handled the matter the best way possible. She looked at me with a pissed-off face and then said, "Just bring the soup for me. And remember, I want it hot, piping hot." "I will. Please grab a seat. Your food will be on the way." She didn't take a seat, though. Instead, replied, "I'll wait here. Don't mess up my order, stupid girl." Okay. I went to the kitchen to hand the order to our chef, Joe. Taking the slip from me, he said in a surprised voice,
"Just a bowl of soup? That's all?" Does the customer look homeless?
No. She looks like a big bully.
Oh boy, well that doesn't sound right. What happened?
Nothing much. She insulted me, that's all.
Show me which one.
The entrance of the kitchen gave a corner view of the cash counter. I carefully pointed my finger at the woman. Joe said in a low voice,
No need to ask her name. Must be Karen.
All the staff in the kitchen joined him, and I couldn't be serious or upset anymore. Joe smiled and said,
The weekend's tomorrow, and tonight you're gonna get paid, so just bear through a couple hours, okay?
I smiled, receiving such warm behavior from him. I went back to the counter to assist the other customers, while Joe prepared the soup for her. Amidst all that, I forgot to tell Joe that the Karen wanted her soup flaming hot. I didn't feel the need to go back just for that information, as I had more customers to ring up. The woman stood there, watching me like a hawk, and then probably felt the need to use the washroom. I saw her turning back and going to the restroom. The soup arrived within the next 5 seconds, and I was glad that once she came back, I could hand her the order and be done with her. She took way more time than I expected, and finally, when she came back, I smiled at her one last time and said, Here's your soup, ma'am. Have a good night. She almost snatched the cup from my hand while giving me a death stare and then opened its lid to check. What happened next? I wasn't ready for that at all. Her face turned red in anger, and she shouted,
This isn't hot! I wanted hot soup! What the hell is this?
Ma'am, please calm down.
Shut up, you stupid bitch!
And that's when I couldn't pretend anymore. I said in a pissed-off tone, Ma'am, you can't just insult me like this. It's not right.
Really? You're working for me, and you want to teach me how the job is done?
I don't work for you, ma'am. I work for the owner of this Denny's. You want to be respected, then you have to respect me as well. Even though I was angry and answered her back, I still didn't raise my voice or use a single curse word. Her eyes were filled with hatred. I could see in her face how much she wanted to beat the crap out of me. But I knew she would not be able to do that, as we were surrounded by people and CCTV cameras. Yet still, she did something horrible. She suddenly took the cup, removed the lid, and threw the spicy soup right at my face. Even though it wasn't piping hot, it was still hotter than room temperature. The contents of the cup went into my eyes and I began screaming in pain.
My eyes! Help! Help!
Everyone witnessed what happened, and the woman realized the huge mistake she had made. She turned back and ran to the exit, hoping to leave the restaurant, when Rodrigo jumped in and blocked her way. One of my female coworkers, Lucy, went straight to the crazy woman and gave her a tight slap.
I'm gonna call the cops, okay? Help Ava!
Rodrigo dialed 911, and I was taken to the restroom by some customers. I splashed cold water over and over on my face, which was burning like hell at that moment. The cops came in and took that psycho woman into custody. Tears rolled down my eyes when Rodrigo hugged me. The fact that he stood up for me made me feel that just like there are evil people in this world, angels exist too.
A cop responded to a 911 call about a ruckus happening in front of a diner. When the cop reached the diner, he found a truck set on fire, parked right in front of it. The story you are about to see is a dramatized, animated version of this scary found footage. I was heading home from the sheriff's office, thinking the night has finally come to an end. When I was just 2 kilometers away from my house, the 911 dispatcher rang me up.
Hello, officer, are you there?
Officer Curtis on the line.
We've had a report of a fire hazard at 22 Close Street, near the diner. The fire truck is on the way.
So am I.
I turned the car around and headed to the location in full speed. The 911 dispatcher kept guiding me to the scene. After taking the final left turn, I got onto the road and could notice a burning vehicle parked near the sidewalk. There was a diner which was in complete darkness. I quickly pulled over and got out of my car, holding my gun. It was a big pickup truck, which was completely on fire. Either it caught fire, which seemed impossible as there was no sign of an accident around the car. So I went with my gut feeling that someone burnt it down on purpose.
No!
Just then, I heard a woman scream from the drive-thru.
I need backup at 22 Close Street, right now. We need to go in now.
Backup is on the way. They'll reach you in 5 minutes.
Ah, please!
I just heard another scream. I'm going in.
Officer, do not go in. I repeat, do not go in. Backup is on the way. Wait for your backup.
I can't. I'm going in.
Officer? Officer.
I disconnected the radio and grabbed my gun tightly. I could hear the fire truck coming my way, but there was no sign of backup. I slowly approached the diner, even though there was a 99% chance of a criminal being in it. Once I entered, I could see the fire truck starting to extinguish the fire. The entire diner was in darkness, but the light coming from the burning truck with the red sirens of the fire truck lit up the place like no other. A woman was standing in the corner with a horrid face as she was waiting for death. An old couple was sitting under a table, trying their best to hide. Right beside the woman sat a man on a chair with a black eye and swollen jaw. Someone punched him in the face several times. My eyes scanned the diner, and I couldn't see anyone else. The woman looked at me, and with her shaking hands, pointed at the washroom door. I pointed my gun at the door and screamed.
It's the police. Come out, wherever you are.
The door didn't open. No one made a sound.
You can't escape. We have the place surrounded. Come out right now.
You lie worse than my wife, officer.
Now, the washroom door pushed open, and a man came out from it. He looked so creepy that for a second, I felt goosebumps too. He took a step ahead, and I stopped him, saying,
Don't move! Do you have any weapons?
No, I don't.
Don't try to play smart with me, man.
I don't like you or my wife, officer. I don't need any weapon to straighten up my cheating wife and her worthless lover.
Please, help us.
Help us? Who is this us, darling? Me and you, or you and him? Huh?
Quiet, both of you! What the hell is going on here?
The man suddenly kicked the table nearby, making the plates and glass shatter into pieces and said,
I am not the guy who gets cheated on by some stupid blonde. She came for my money, and now that I'm broke, she found herself someone new. I won't tolerate that.
But you have no right to take the law into your own hands and terrorize the other citizens. You can leave your wife. Why did you beat this poor man?
You're right, officer. It was wrong to take the law in my own hand. It was indeed a mistake to beat this poor guy when I should have beaten this characterless blonde into a pulp. Shame. Why didn't I do that instead? Oh, shame! Shame!
There's no need to get aggressive. There's still time, okay? Just sit down on that chair until I tell you to get up.
You mean until your actual backup arrives, right?
Yes, exactly.
I understood how clever this guy is, and also what was going on in here. The man probably followed his wife and her lover to this diner. I could also guess the pickup truck outside belonged to this unconscious man on the chair. The husband must have burnt it for having an affair with his wife.
Sit down there.
I will sit down, but tell me, officer, what would you have done if you were in my place? Wouldn't you have shot your wife already?
What?
Why don't you help me here? Men like us give everything to one woman, and still, it's never enough.
Please, get us out of here.
Ma'am, just calm down. Everything is going to be all right.
I should have silenced you when I had the chance, you filthy woman!
The woman collapsed on the ground crying. By that time, I figured out that this man has no weapon, because if he did, he would have counterattacked already. So I took out my handcuffs and walked to him saying,
You're gonna turn around now. Put your hands behind your back. No smart moves, or that will be the end of you.
Your law sucks, officer. Always punishing the innocent.
I put him in handcuffs, and finally, the backup arrives. The people from the diner were rescued. We found the unconscious waitress in the kitchen, whom the man knocked out too, maybe because she tried to stop him. It's crazy to think how the man terrorized the place, even after having no weapon with him. Everyone probably froze in fear, not realizing what to do. When the cops were taking the man away, his wife was standing there. He stopped in front of her and gave her a spine-chilling look like he's going to kill her right now if he gets a chance. Then said,
You know, I will get out on parole because I didn't kill anyone. And the day I get out, I'm gonna come for you. No matter where you go, no matter where you hide, I will find you, and then I will cut you open to steal your heart away.
The woman started shaking hearing these words. I could see her sweat. I immediately ordered the officer to take this man away from her. He started screaming like a maniac once the officers dragged him away.
Remember, Lana, I will come for you. Your heart belongs to me. No one else in this world but me. I will find you, and I will make you mine that day. There will be no cops to save you from me. I will come for you, Lana!
It's true the woman cheated on her husband, but seeing her husband's mental condition, I was shocked. The guy is obsessed and psychotic about his wife. Though the cheating can never be legit, who knows? Maybe she did it to get away from him. This footage was recorded by someone who went to take a walk in the woods and came across a clown. The clown had a scary smile and a red balloon on his hand. Suddenly, the clown snapped and burst the balloon he was holding on his hand. And right after, he chased the person who was recording him. The following you are about to see is based on this scary footage.
I never thought I would share this story with anyone because of how excessively creepy it is. I was 19 years old when I decided to go on my first solo hiking trip. That day, I was about to leave for the hike when my mom called. Her very first words were, "Judith, please don't wander off the trail. There's a reason why hikers follow them." "Yes, Mom, I know. Please stop worrying so much." "I'm not worrying. You're a strong woman. I know you can take care of yourself. But there's no harm in being careful, right? I promise I'll be careful. Make sure you keep yourself hydrated throughout the journey, and don't forget your knife and pepper spray." "Yes, Mom, I remember it all." Good, that's my girl. "Can I go now? I have to finish packing." "Sure, have fun, Bubblegum." "Stop calling me that." "Good night, baby. Good night. Love you. Love you more, darling." After getting off the call, I finished the rest of the packing and went to bed early. I thought tomorrow would be an exciting day, and I was going to have a lot of fun. The next morning, I woke up early, dressed in my khaki Wilderness Explorer outfit with matching hiking boots, which were brand new. I then lifted my rucksack and hitchhiked to the nearest hiking trails located on the outskirts. The day was sunny, and there was no hint of rain, so I knew the weather would be pleasant enough. The view was breathtaking. Greenery everywhere, sounds of birds, and the sweet smell of wildflowers made me feel so alive. The hiking trail had small signboards that directed the path ahead. I didn't have any fellow hikers, which made me feel good because I'm not much of a people person. I was walking and enjoying the experience when I spotted a waterfall. Keeping my rucksack under a tree, I went to wash my hands and face before diving into the sandwiches I made for myself. I walked toward the crystal clear water, and I was just about to splash it on my face when I saw a reflection of a clown on the water standing right behind me. Out of surprise, I turned around quickly, but the clown somehow disappeared in that fraction of a second. I got up and called out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" But no answer came. Only a rustling sound of dry leaves could be heard. I ran my hand through my left pocket and made sure my pepper spray was there, just in case. The incident didn't just creep me out, but also made me think how odd it was to see a clown in the middle of the woods. I watched my surroundings for a few minutes more, and when everything finally felt fine, I got back on the hiking trail. I was walking, trying my best to take my mind off the clown, when I heard a burst of spine-chilling laughter echoing in the distance.
Who is that? Is this some kind of sick joke?
I screamed in fear. That's when a hand holding a red balloon came out from behind a tree 10 feet away from me. The hand just levitated in the air, while the person to whom the hand belonged hid behind the tree. Feeling anxious, I asked again,
"What the hell is this? Who are you?"
And that's when a freaky-looking clown blocked my way, jumping right from behind that tree.
Hello, pretty girl!
Now that I finally faced the clown, I was extremely shocked, because these woods would have been the last place on Earth where I would expect to see a clown holding a red balloon. He moved his head from left to right while staring at me without blinking. The balloon in his hand immediately reminded me of Pennywise from the famous horror classic, It. But then I remembered, I'm no kid. I'm a 19-year-old woman who has no reason to fear a clown. So I said in a firm voice,
"What are you doing here in the woods?"
Trying to enjoy a beautiful day.
Fine, enjoy your day. I better get back to mine.
Saying this, I started walking toward the clown, thinking if I seem disinterested in him, he will eventually move out of my way. But sadly, that didn't happen. Seeing me walk toward him, a huge grin appeared on his face, and he just stood there like a statue. I stopped when I noticed that he was not moving out of my way. I gathered all my courage and yelled at him.
"Do you mind?"
As a matter of fact, I do, pretty girl.
Move out of my way, you stupid clown. And don't you dare call me that.
The scary smile he was pulling off faded away, and burning anger took place on his face. Grinding his sharp, freaky teeth, he checked me out from top to bottom and asked,
You know, there's no one around here except you and me.
Are you trying to threaten me? I'm not some kid who will get scared by your good-for-nothing threats.
Really? So, you're not scared of me?
No way, dude. You're just a weirdo with no one to love or care for you. Creep.
As soon as I said that, he took the red balloon into his hands and popped it with his sharp, filthy fingernails. The sound of the balloon bursting freaked me out completely, and what happened next still comes into my memory as fragments. The clown screamed like a psycho and started running at me at full speed. It's true that when danger strikes, we tend to panic first instead of dealing with it using our rational senses. So even though I had a hunting knife and pepper spray with me, I completely chickened out and started to run in the opposite direction. I could hear the clown chasing me while screaming,
I'm gonna get you! I'm gonna get you!
Sweat was dripping down my forehead. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I could feel my own breath choking my throat, and the freaky clown kept screaming.
I'm gonna get you, and then we will play all night, right in the middle of these woods. Here I come, pretty girl.
I knew if I fell or lost my way, I would be lost from the face of this earth. Because if he does get me then, he will do unthinkable things to me, and my parents won't be able to find me, be it alive or dead. So I ran for my life and made sure I didn't deviate from the hiking trail. And fortunately, I didn't, even under all that pressure. When I finally saw the way out, leading to the highway, I knew I would be saved. I gathered all the strength in my body and ran even faster. As I slammed onto the road, I turned back one last time to see the clown, and he had stopped. Seeing me standing on the highway, and also noticing the truck that was coming from the end of the road, he decided to stop chasing me. I waved at the truck, screaming,
Please, stop! Help me! Please, just stop!
As the truck came closer, the clown waved at me one last time while laughing loudly. His laughter echoed, and that was the last time I ever saw him. I still have no idea what he was doing in those woods in the first place, but I never went back to find out.
No!
In this video, captured a few years ago, two police officers encounter a suspicious man leaving a town. In this animated dramatization, we'll see how a simple procedure for a young police officer turns into a nightmare.
When we decide to become a police officer, we not only agree to enforce the law whenever we can, but we also put our bodies on the line. Every time we put on a police uniform, we know that our lives are at risk at all times. But no matter how prepared we are to face that moment, when it comes, we realize that it is never enough. The day I faced death, I was with my partner, Officer Murphy. We were both guarding the entrance to a small town on the outskirts of the city, keeping an eye out for anyone who might look suspicious. A few hours earlier, we had received a report of a missing teenager. That was the only way out of town, so we couldn't miss anything.
Nice night to waste here, isn't it?
No kidding. What a ruckus that kid has caused.
You think he got away too, don't you?
You know what village kids are like. They have a life secured by mom and dad. They get bored of following their rules and run away.
And after a few weeks, they realize that life is hard and they have to work.
It's always the same. Seconds passed and turned into minutes. It was about to be an hour since we arrived, but our car was illuminated by the headlights of a car coming in front of us. Here comes one. Turn on the lights and stay here. I'll go. When the patrol car alarm went off, the car stopped and I had time to get out. I approached the driver's seat and he lowered the glass of his tinted window.
Good evening, ma'am. How can I help you?
This man's face was terrifying. He looked drugged, but his retinas and his look told me that he was not, that this was his face in his normal state. Although the man's greeting seemed polite and confident, I could see how he was impatiently moving his right leg, and how, with his fingernails, he was tearing the seat of the car on the sly. This man was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. Good evening, sir. License and registration, please?
Of course, here.
His name was Thomas Wilkinson. He was 43 years old, and after checking all his papers, apparently everything was in order. I wasn't going to let him go that easily. Call it police instinct or just a hunch, but I knew that this man didn't want to tell me something. Tell me, Thomas, what are you doing out here at this hour?
I was going to my sister's house. She's about to give birth in the city. As soon as they told me I was about to be an uncle, I left my house.
He answered me too quickly. That story was planned. Congratulations, sir. What's your sister's name?
Natasha.
And this is the first time you have children?
No, the third one.
But didn't you tell me that you were going to be an uncle for the first time?
It's just an expression, damn it. Can I go now? I have to be at the hospital as soon as possible.
The real personality of this person was appearing. Of course, sir. First, I'm going to ask you to get out of the car and verify that everything is in order.
Come on, really now? Are you doing this on purpose?
I'm sorry, sir. It's just procedure. Angry, the man got out. I could tell he was furious. None of my questions or making him get out of the car was necessary. He was simply looking to get me to break down his facade, and I knew he was succeeding. Despite this, and without showing it, I was terrified. There was something about this man that gave me a constant feeling of terror. I felt that something bad was about to happen.
Here, happy now?
I didn't answer him. I just checked his car and his pockets. At first glance, it was clean. far from holding the corpse of some teenager. He didn't even have any illegal substances or weapons. Maybe he just didn't like the police.
What the hell is taking you so long? You're not trying to rob me, are you?
Everything is in order, sir.
Give me my damn papers.
Sir, I remind you that although you can leave, you cannot disrespect a police officer. As I spoke, something caught my attention. The man's back seat was slightly raised. From it, a piece of black bag was sticking out. At the same time, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Under the seat was dirt. I needed to make time while I called out to my partner. Sir, I forgot to check a document. Please return them to me and wait in the car. The man's look changed. His face of fury and cruelty turned white and cold. Without saying anything to me, the man approached me to give me the papers, and when I cupped my hands with them, my heart almost skipped a beat. With his other hand, he was pointing a gun straight at my chest. I tried to resist and take cover, but the man quickly grabbed me by the hair and pulled me into his car. At that moment, all my training was in vain. Nothing could prepare me to face a man trying to put me through the window of his car to kidnap me. I managed to get away, but when I was about to pull my gun, the man was again aiming at me.
Drop your gun, now!
Murphy's voice echoed through the forest. My partner was next to me, pointing the gun at the man while he was pointing his at me. His hateful face was as present as ever. The man was not going to stop his bloodlust just because a gun was pointed at his head. At that moment, I felt my fate was sealed, and there was nothing I could do. In the slowest second of my life, the trigger of the man's gun went off. For that split second, I felt my whole life flash before my eyes. I felt that this was the end. But to my incredible good fortune, none of this was true. The bullet never left the man's gun. I took advantage of this moment of luck and confusion to throw myself at him and pull the gun away. I jumped back, and just as the man was ready to fight to get it back, Murphy was in front of him, pointing his gun at his head. Minutes later, 2 other patrol cars were with us, and Murphy was putting the man in the car. When they searched the car, they found several black bags under the seat. That night, we were unable to tell the family that the teenager was coming back alive. Today, the man is behind bars, serving a life sentence, not only convicted of the teenager's death, but linked to 17 other similar cases. After this, he will never hurt anyone again. Me? I still risk my life every day. Only one thing changed. Before I leave my house, I hug my children even more tightly because I know that day may be the last time I see them. It may seem a little strange, but one of my favorite hobbies is driving on the road. Many people are afraid of falling asleep or making long and tedious trips that would bother anyone, but that was not the case for me. I always found an enormous peace traveling alone on the road, a chance to find myself and feel a peace that in the hustle and bustle of the city is impossible to find. Even after that fateful day, I still enjoy traveling alone. The problem I had on that dark and cold March night was that I was unknowingly not alone. I remember how that day I was going to the beach to meet my nephews. I asked for a vacation from my job and went full speed ahead. The road was long and lonely, but it was nothing I hadn't done before. When I reached the dark road, I slowed down and just enjoyed the ride. But something interrupted my peace. As I was driving, a silhouette crossed my path and I had to dodge it, but I still felt like I hit something. I braked violently, and my car almost went off the road, but I managed to control it and hold on. I looked out the window, and there I saw it. A dead animal was lying on the side of the road. Aw, poor thing. I've always been an animal person, and would never turn my back on a wounded one. But this deer-like animal was definitely dead. There was nothing I could have done about it. I restarted my car and went on my way. After I turned the car back on, something felt different. Not only did the car feel heavier, but I felt like something was bothering me. I had a bad feeling. I started thinking about the animal I had seen a few seconds before. I was sure I had dodged it. I mean, accidents happen. It wasn't the first time that had happened to me, but something was different. I never saw the animal hit the car, and the blow was not felt from the front. Besides, how did the animal end up on the side of the road? I had too many questions, and unfortunately, I was going to find the answers. I looked in the rearview mirror to make sure I was okay after the impact, and instead of seeing the mirror, I saw it. A face was peering out from above my roof. His piercing eyes were staring at me from above the roof, to which he was clinging with his huge, inhuman arms. Aware that I had spotted him, he didn't let me react and stretched his hand through my window, trying to attack me. I managed to dodge it, but my car spun out of control and ended up in the dirt on the side of the road. The creature flew into a bush in front of me, and I lost sight of it. Scared, I started the car again, and before backing up, I saw it again. In front of me, it moved from one bush to another in a strange, animalistic way, as if it were a spider. Anyone else would think I had just encountered a monster, but I remember from my medical school days seeing this type of person. His arms and legs were completely disproportionate to the rest of his body. He was extremely tall, and his hands looked huge. This person was a human being with Marfan syndrome. I started to back the car up to get out of there, but then I heard it again, the same thump I felt when I saw the dead animal. At that moment, I realized that that noise did not mean I had run over it. That animal had been there for a long time. The thump I heard was the sound of its killer climbing onto my roof. At full speed, I closed the driver's window just in time to prevent his hand from going back through the window. But even so, I didn't manage to break the rearview mirror on the way. Quickly, I looked at the passenger window. It was also open. I closed it and found him there, face to face, looking at me, separated by a window that 2 seconds before was open. We both held each other's gaze. He began to lick the window in my direction, filling it with saliva. Within seconds, he got upset and tried to bite it. After that, he paced the car from place to place before my bewildered eyes. I didn't know how to react. I knew I couldn't accelerate the car and leave until he got out of it. I might be facing a human, but he was totally insane. In the midst of my thoughts, this person started hitting the car from above wildly. I started it up again and tried to get back on the road, but the car stalled halfway. It seemed that the skidding from before and the pounding had taken an effect. Come on, really? You're gonna fail me now? At that moment, I thought I was going to die. This was supposed to be just a vacation trip where I was going to see my family, and now I was destined to die for no reason on an abandoned road at the hands of a psychiatrically unstable person. Suddenly, the rearview mirror inside the car gave me one more hope. In the distance, the lights of a car were shining and moving slowly. That was my only chance. Finding another car on the road was a great rarity. I tried to start the engine with all my might, and as the noise distracted my attacker, I opened the door and sped off as fast as I could. Halfway there, I turned around and saw him chasing me. He was no longer on all fours. He was standing on his 2 feet, and at great speed, he was chasing me, moving his arms up and down in a strange way. The man quickly caught up to me with inhuman speed and grabbed me by the hair, pulling me back. I fell to the ground, and my attacker tried to pull me by the hair to the deepest part of the path. But I grabbed a rock on the way and smashed it into his ankle. Groaning in pain, he let go of me, and just as the car was pulling up, I crossed the road and he stopped.
Hey, you okay, honey?
Please, I need help. Take me out of here now.
Wow, tough night, sweetheart.
Just drive, now.
Sure, hon. Did someone try to kidnap you or something?
Yes, please, just drive.
The man kept staring at me and asking me uncomfortable questions. He was clearly a pervert, but at this point, I was satisfied that he wasn't trying to kill me. The man dropped me off at the nearest town. The next day, I recounted that a mental patient attacked me, and when we went to get my car, it was destroyed. I rescued some of my belongings. I never knew about that maniac, but after researching the area, I found out that there was a mental asylum hidden on the outskirts of a nearby town. In the movies, mental patients escape when there are power outages or disturbances in the place, but real life is much more bitter. This asylum is usually the kind of place where you go in and don't come out. The poor living conditions and lack of concern for the patients who wander in and out of the place makes it a very dangerous establishment. I also learned that the families don't visit the patients, and the staff constantly abuses them. This man who managed to escape and attacked me that night looked like a monster, an animal, a beast. The cruel truth is that he was nothing like that. Over time, I began to feel sorry for him, because just like me that day, he was nothing more than a victim.
In this footage, a kid is getting chased by a man wearing a Pluto costume. Everyone seems to think it's a joke until a woman realizes how this man is trying to terrify the poor kid and intervenes. The story you are about to see is loosely based on this footage. I don't think I'll ever feel safe in an amusement park again. This happened during my summer vacation when I was 10 years old and my sister was 7. We went to stay with our aunt for a while. Aunt Shelley was the most fun-loving adult I have ever met in my life. When my parents were busy restricting us, she came with loads of chocolates and bags of fun ideas. My sister Ruth was deeply fond of her. A big smile appeared on her face every time we went to visit Aunt Shelley. So as I was saying, this one summer, Ruth and I went to stay with our aunt. Our parents were going on a hiking trip, hence the opportunity came. Our dad drove us to her house. The moment we reached the gate, we saw Aunt Shelley waiting for us on her porch.
There, my 2 jelly beans. Come on, give your aunt a hug.
I missed you.
My sister ran to her while saying this. Aunt Shelley took Ruth in her arms and showered her with kisses. She then caressed my cheek and welcomed us into the house. After an hour of chit-chat, my dad got up to leave. He looked at me and my sister and said,
"You kids be good, okay? Don't give Aunt Shelley any trouble." "We won't, Dad."
Aunt Shelley hugged Dad and said,
The kids will be just fine. Don't worry about them. Have a nice trip, you two.
"Thanks, Shelley. See you when we get back. Take care. Bye, kids!"
My dad hugged us, and then we watched him drive away.
Come on, kids. Let's go inside.
We went in with our aunt. She cooked us a delicious lunch and afterwards took us for ice creams. While eating her favorite strawberry sundae, Ruth asked Aunt Shelley,
"What are we gonna do for fun?"
You are getting smarter, young lady.
She chuckled in her innocent voice, and I added,
"Aren't you going to take us somewhere?"
Well, I sure would. How about a fun day at Disneyland tomorrow?
What? We're gonna go to Disneyland? Oh, Aunt Shelley, you're the best!
Yeah, Disneyland! Disneyland!
We both hugged our aunt in joy because, no doubt, Disneyland happens to be every kid's dream place. The next morning, we packed our bags and started our journey. We were laughing and cheering. We spotted the big towers peeking from distance. We couldn't control our joy anymore. Ruth jumped from the car. I ran behind her. Aunt Shelley called out,
Easy, kids. We have all day.
I'm gonna leave you behind, Andrew.
No, you won't!
I still remember how I and my sister laughed while running to the gate of our dream place. People were standing in line, waiting to enter. Kids were going crazy, and so were we. After the tickets, Aunt Shelley got us cotton candy. We were deciding which ride to try on first when Ruth said,
Look, there's Donald.
I followed her eyes and saw a big Donald Duck standing near the roller coaster holding a bunch of colorful balloons. Kids were rushing to him, and he gave them balloons.
Let's go, Ruth!
I screamed in joy. We took pictures with Donald, and Aunt Shelley laughed, seeing us having the best time of our lives. We bought some chocolate popcorn and Mickey-shaped pretzels. Ruth stopped by a toy shop and begged Aunt Shelley to buy her one. Aunt Shelley asked me if I would like to come, but I wanted to eat my popcorn in peace, so I said, I'll wait here.
Okay then, you go sit on the bench and don't even try to wander around until your sister and I come back, all right?
Yes, Aunt Shelley!
I agreed to her, being the obedient kid I was, and went to sit down at the bench. They went to the toy shop, and I began to enjoy my popcorn while watching the view. The bench was located right beside a Matterhorn bobsled. People were screaming as the bobsled was going up and down. I thought I would ask Ruth to go to that ride once she comes back. Everything was going just as it should when I saw Pluto walking towards me from a left-hand side corner. He stopped in front of me and said,
Are you having fun?
I smiled and replied,
Why are you talking like Goofy? You're Pluto. You don't talk.
I do. Do you know we are stepbrothers?
As stupid as I thought he was, I still decided to play along with him.
Fine. Yes, I'm loving this place.
I was just thinking about coming to see you. What are we gonna do today, I wonder?
I'm gonna ride the bobsled with my sister and aunt.
Oh, I thought you wanted to stop for a chat or something.
Well, we can talk until they get back.
Yuck! Oh, where are they?
I pointed my finger at the toy shop. Pluto weirdly shook his body and made a gesture like he was laughing. He asked,
So, who's your favorite Disney cartoon?
Being a kid, I gave him an honest reply.
Easy. Donald Duck. I just met him. We clicked so many pictures. He's my sister's favorite too.
Donald, huh?
Saying this, he slowly tilted his head to one side and kept staring at me being in that posture. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Just sat like that, staring at me. Being a little creeped out by this behavior, I asked,
What is it?
Oh, nothing. I just thought you liked me.
Well, you are great too.
You're lying!
Saying this, he flipped my popcorn tub and everything spilt on my clothes. I felt angry with what he did.
You are a stupid guy wearing a Pluto costume and talking like Goofy. No one likes you. I'm gonna tell my aunt and she's gonna report you.
Gosh, that's great!
You're a freak.
Gosh, I sure like you!
I kicked on his foot in anger and he screamed.
Wowee! That makes my day!
Leave me alone or I'm gonna scream.
He slowly got up and took a few steps back from me. He then said in a creepy tone,
Look how big I smile. You gotta love that smile.
Psycho!
Saying this, I got up to leave when suddenly he grabbed my hand. The grasp was so tight that I could feel his bony fingers clawing into my flesh, even though he was wearing a costume. That's when I realized I am in trouble. He stooped down to my level, got close to my face, and said,
Is it weird that I like the sound of screaming?
And then he let me go. After a few seconds of shock, when I understood I'm free, I turned back and ran. But Pluto started to chase me as well. It was the most terrifying time of my life. I was getting chased by a psycho Pluto in a park filled with people. I screamed at the top of my lungs.
Help! Help me, Aunt Shelley!
She heard my scream and turning around, saw me coming in her direction at full speed. Behind me ran a maniac Disney cartoon who was said to be a kid's friend. My vision started to blur. I was on the verge of collapsing when I looked behind me. Pluto had his hand stretched towards me, and he was getting closer each second. I screamed one last time.
Somebody help me!
Most people thought we were just playing, so no one did anything. Luckily, my aunt realized my cry for help. She jumped from the shop counter, and before Pluto could reach me, grabbed his hand. He stopped, and then my aunt pushed him hard, which made him fall to the ground. She took me into her arms, and I told her what just happened. Finally, getting the hint that something was wrong, a few people approached us. The man dressed as Pluto got up to sneak away, but my aunt yelled.
Don't let him escape. He was scaring my nephew. Grab him by the neck. I'll report him to security.
So what was supposed to be a fun day ended in a terrorizing memory for me. We didn't stay there once the securities came and took Pluto away. I still have no idea how the man underneath the costume looked, but while leaving, he turned back at me one last time and waved goodbye. I just hope that was our first and last encounter in this lifetime. The story you are about to see is based on this real footage. A man was having his meal when another customer, a mysteriously strange woman, lunged at him with a sudden outburst. She started hitting the man for no reason, and the man had to get up and fight back in self-defense to free himself from her. The following animation is a dramatized version of what happened between these two people.
I want you out of my apartment right now.
My girlfriend was pushing me towards the front door of the place.
Jenna, babe, wait! It's not really what you think, please!
Do you think I'm an idiot? Stacy told me. She saw you with her own eyes. Do you understand? Get out! I don't want to see you!
Once I was within a few feet of being in the hallway outside Jenna's apartment, I finished walking out and turned so I could meet her eyes.
Babe!
Jenna didn't even try to listen to me as she slammed the door right in my face.
Thanks, Stacy.
That day after work, my girlfriend was waiting for me in the living room of her apartment. She was furious, as apparently her friend had seen me with another woman the day before. Stacy wasn't wrong. I had met an attractive chick, but it was just that. I loved Jenna. I didn't want to end our relationship, although right now was not the ideal time to talk to her. Anyway, I was hungry, so I decided to stop by to eat somewhere on my way to a hotel. The sun began to hide as I walked. It was then that I saw a bright yellow sign a few streets away from me. Denny's, it said. I didn't usually eat at that restaurant, but that night, I decided to go. Just before entering, I started to hear my cell phone ring. It was a call from my friend Andre.
Hey man, are you home? Not really, bro. Jenna kicked me out. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I was near and I just thought... I'm outside the Denny's near home. You wanna come? Yeah, I'll be there in a bit.
I wouldn't wait for my friend out here as it was starting to get cold, so I went into Denny's. The place wasn't too crowded, so I was able to sit in one of those places that, instead of chairs, had something similar to a sofa. Thus, time passed while I waited for my friend. At one point, I heard the Denny's doors open, so I turned around to see if it was Andre who was entering. It was a dark-skinned chick wearing a red sweater and over it, a black jacket. The sweater hood was covering part of her face, so she couldn't be seen clearly, but I couldn't care less about her. I took my eyes off the woman and continued to look at my cell phone. Soon, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed how she walked past me and quickly sat down at one of the nearby tables.
Are you on your way?
It was the woman who was speaking on the cell phone.
Come on, please. They're really doing it. I'm so scared, please. Can't you try to understand me for once in your pathetic life? I'm telling you the truth. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll wait for you right here.
Unintentionally, I had been looking at that woman. After ending the call, she pulled the sweater hood off her face. It was then that I could see her better. She seemed as if she hadn't slept for days. But the strangest thing was her huge eyes, which were looking side to side nervously. What the heck is wrong with her? I thought. Suddenly, her gaze shifted to me. The expression on her face was one of disgust and fear.
What are you looking at, huh?
Excuse me?
Don't play dumb. I saw you. You were looking at me. What do you want, huh? Are you one of them?
One of whom?
Don't come close to me. A friend of mine is coming soon if you try anything.
The woman was so nervous that she seemed to be hyperventilating and sweating.
I have no idea what you're talking about, chick. What?
Suddenly, someone opened the door.
Bro!
Since my friend had arrived, I ignored the woman and started talking to him. But I couldn't stop getting the feeling that I was being watched. At one point, I glanced over at her and realized that she was staring at us with an uneasy expression.
What is it, man?
I put my gaze back on Andre.
There's a weird woman over there. A weird woman? Yeah. Before you got here, she told me a lot of nonsense. And now she's staring at us, bro.
Suddenly, a fat, bald man walked past us and sat down with the woman.
Finally, you took your time.
Willow, you have to stop this. Go, just look for help. I don't know, but you have to.
Are you serious? 'Cause I am. They're following me.
Is she the one who's speaking? Yeah, damn. She sounds like a crazy chick. Yeah, she's a crazy chick, all right.
My friend and I, who were watching the woman, saw how she suddenly turned to look at us.
See? Them. There are two of them.
Willow.
What do you want? I'm calling the police.
What? What the heck? What is wrong with you? You're crazy!
A person who was at another one of the tables took out her cell phone, I suppose to start recording. A loud noise was heard throughout Denny's, and then everyone was silent for a few seconds.
Ugh.
The woman in front of me began to move slowly. She seemed dizzy. Even if I had done it in self-defense against her, seeing her like that made me panic.
Hey, are you okay? I didn't mean to hurt you.
Was I listening well? Was she laughing?
What?
I knew it. I knew you were following me. You wanted to hurt me. Did you think I wouldn't notice? I'm not that dumb.
What the heck?
I'll call the police. You'll rot in jail.
You're really out of your mind.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. But look, I got you. It was all true.
The way she was laughing, and especially how wide her eyes were, and her expression on her face was disturbing me.
Let's go on.
After turning around, I realized that the bald man was behind me.
Stand still. The workers called the police.
When the cops arrived, they took us to the police station, where we cleared up the misunderstanding. The bald man told them everything that had happened, and revealed that the woman named Willow had survived a kidnapping months earlier and had been frequently paranoid ever since. She believed that any unknown person who stared at her was part of the group that had kidnapped her, and therefore that she was in danger all the time. I will never forget the disturbing expression on her face the last time I saw her when I left the police station.
All my life, I was educated to be a quiet person. I was taught to respect others and to understand that everyone is different. I never have to get into other people's problems, and I will never be in trouble myself. Earl, my boyfriend, was raised the same way I was. So together, we were never that couple who go over to watch fights or try to see people get hurt in car accidents. This always helped us maintain a quiet, uneventful life. But sometimes, when danger calls, there is no stopping the inevitable. That night, Earl and I had come home tired from work, and neither of us felt like cooking. He wanted to stay home and order Chinese food, but I felt like getting some air, so I convinced him to go to Denny's. He was a little hesitant, but we hadn't been out in a while, so he agreed. When we arrived, we chose a place near the window, and since we hadn't been together for a while, he sat next to me instead of across from me. We were looking at what to order until a voice from the table in front of us caught our attention.
This damn food is cold. What's your problem?
I'm sorry, sir. I'll go back to the kitchen and bring the...
Oh no, you want me to starve? Are you stupid?
I don't know what to tell you, sir. If you want, you can place a complaint.
Are you making fun of me? Do I look like an idiot?
I know this, Blondie. Wasn't your mom the bitch that worked at the bus stop and got beaten to death?
Oh yeah, it was on the news. Did you get hired because you're an orphan? Does that mean this damn restaurant hires useless orphans?
Too bad that they killed your mom so late. They must have beaten her when she was pregnant.
I'm sorry, sir. I have to go wait on other tables. As this couple laughed, we looked at each other's faces in shock at what we had heard, but decided to stay out of the way and go about our business. The last thing we needed was to attract the attention of these animals.
So, you went to visit Paul the other day?
Yeah, I stayed at his house for a while. It's amazing how much his pet has grown.
Oh, you mean Lula? What a cute dog.
Oh, she's beautiful. But you'd be impressed by how fat she is.
Coming from Paul, I'm not surprised.
Interrupting our chat, the man at the table in front of us was staring at us, furious.
Who the fuck do you think you're calling fat?
Sir, I wasn't referring to you.
Oh no? Do you think I'm stupid? You think I haven't been called that before?
Break their heads, Ned. I heard them. They were making fun of you. That bitch said you were a fat creep.
Oh yeah? Did you try to lie to me? In front of my fucking wife?
Leave us alone. We didn't do anything to you.
Shut the fuck up. I'll ask your opinion when I need a cooking recipe.
What? You know what? Fuck you. I would never discriminate against you for being fat, but I will discriminate you for being a disgusting, violent piece of garbage.
The man became even angrier. His face was red. His veins were swelling more and more in his face and looked like they were going to explode. His eyelids were so red that he looked like he was about to have a stroke. Without another word, the man tried to hit me wildly, but Earl blocked the blows with his body. Meanwhile, the woman was desperately encouraging him to keep hitting us. Suddenly, it was all over. The restaurant security took the man away, and the woman went after them, insulting them. I just started crying and hugged Earl, who seemed to be a little shocked, but fine. The waitress and the restaurant authorities apologized to us and quickly brought us our food, but we knew they were not to blame. After eating, we left without having dessert. The night was obviously ruined.
Hey, thanks for covering the punches. That animal would have killed me.
No need to thank me. I'd do anything for you.
Aw, did the bumps make you sentimental?
He must have hit me harder than I thought.
I love you, dummy.
I love you too.
From 1 second to the next, those two psychopaths were in front of us. The man climbed on top of Earl, choking him.
Get him! Get that! No! I won't let you!
I ran in the direction of where the two men were fighting, but the sound of someone pulling the safety off a gun stopped me. When I turned around, the woman was standing behind me, pointing a magnum at me.
You take one more step, and not only will I cut open your chest and rip your heart out with my teeth, but I'll put so many holes in your boy that even a sponge would be jealous.
Crying, I could only watch as the man continued to choke the man I loved. I could only pray that it would stop as soon as possible.
So you think you can humiliate me in public, do you? Do you think you're better than me? Defending that stupid woman and looking like a hero? You know what, kid? Heroes, they die young. And you're lucky I'm a gentleman. Otherwise, you would have been the first to die.
He and the woman ran away, leaving the scene of the crime in their car. At that same instant, I ran to Earl, crying. The police told me that they would do everything possible to find these people and bring them to justice, but that at that moment they had no information about him. I hope justice will be done.
In this footage, you can see how, outside of a building, the security camera captures some white figures starting to run until the last two jump the fence and stay still on the ground. The story you are about to see is a dramatized animated version of this found footage. I am currently the head of one of the departments of the company where I work. I wouldn't say that I dislike my job because, in fact, I enjoy it, and I also get good pay. The problem is that the burden of responsibility that comes with it has been stressing me out too much lately. The situation continued until one day, I finally felt terrible.
Are you okay, boss? My back is killing me. I can't even sleep at night. Oh, and what have you done about it? I went to the doctor, but the medicine doesn't really help me much. Have you gone to a massage parlor? It always works for me when I'm like that. It's very relaxing.
That same afternoon, I decided to heed Carl's advice and looked for a massage parlor near my home. Since I found a good option, I made an appointment for that same weekend. From that moment on, I continued going almost every week to that place since my subordinate was right. It was relaxing. It helped me with the pain, and it also made me feel better. But because of what happened last time, I'm not sure I want to go back to that massage parlor. It was a Saturday night. I usually used that day to go so I could sleep perfectly and enjoy Sunday as much as I could. Excited, I left my house, got in the car, and headed to the massage parlor. Once there, I approached the receptionist.
Hello, Karen. How are you today?
Hi, Mr. Davis. We've been waiting for you.
Karen indicated to me which room I would be in this time, and then I walked over to it. The masseuse was already there when I knocked on the door. Everything went normally. The massage relaxed me, cleared my mind, and I had even almost managed to fall asleep. When it was over, I thanked the woman, then Karen, and finally left the massage parlor. A little sleepy, I walked to my car when I started to hear some strange noises. The massage parlor was surrounded by fences, on the other side of which was grass and trees. I wasn't sure what the sounds I was hearing were, but it seemed like various things were running through the grass. Without thinking much, I stopped and stared at the forest.
Huh?
Suddenly, I started to see some white things. Whatever that was, it lay motionless on the floor. Meanwhile, I stayed where I was. Of course, the situation had given me goosebumps. I even started to wonder if I was dreaming, but unfortunately, I wasn't. The fear had left me more awake than I could imagine in just a few seconds. Suddenly, those things started moving. I really didn't want to get close to them for fear of possible danger, but soon, I started hearing some sounds that made me change my mind. At first, I thought they were animal cries, but after listening to them for a few seconds, I realized that they seemed to be the laughter of children. What were some children doing running through the woods at night? I had no idea, but I didn't think about it for a long time either as I approached them.
Hello?
Once I got close enough to them, they stopped laughing and even moving.
Are you okay, kids?
Almost instantly, they both took off the sheets that were covering them, and I could finally see them, which shocked me. They were a boy and a girl. Both were very pale, thin, and dirty. Their clothes looked old and worn, but despite everything, they had big smiles on their face, as if they were very happy.
Children, did something happen to you? Why are you here? Do you feel all right?
The children stared at me for several seconds. That's when I started to get a bad feeling.
We're having fun.
It seems so, but it's not a very good idea for you to be here at this hour, is it? Your families are going to worry, kids.
Why do you care?
It felt silent upon hearing the girl's response. She was still smiling, as was the boy.
Well, You might get hurt running around, or you might even meet a bad person. It's normal to be worried about children in this situation.
Is it?
I was not understanding what was making them laugh so much. In fact, they were beginning to look creepy to me, especially their big smiles.
Do you feel all right?
Old man, why don't you go away and leave us alone?
Huh? Look, kids, I don't want to upset you, but to be honest, you guys look a lot paler and thinner than would be normal. Are you sure you feel okay? Don't you need any help?
The girl and boy stopped smiling and looked at each other after hearing me. When they saw me again, smiles appeared on their faces once more.
Give us food.
We want food.
Huh? I don't have any food right now, but...
Give us food.
I stayed silent for a moment. I really wanted to help those two children, but they didn't seem to understand. They were acting very strange.
What if... how about we go inside the massage parlor? I can find you help there. I can make a call and, well, you know.
The smile on both children's faces faded. They stared at me, eyes wide, and didn't respond in any way.
Well, let's go then.
Without waiting any longer, I grabbed the girl's hand and together we walked towards the building. Once there, hopefully Karen would agree to take care of the situation and I could leave the place and forget about the unsettling moment.
I don't want to.
Huh? What did you say, girl?
I don't want to go.
Huh?
Before I could finish my question, the girl put her face close to my arm and opened her mouth. I soon felt intense pain.
Ouch!
I quickly backed away. She had bitten me.
What the?
Suddenly, the girl ran to where the boy was. They covered themselves with the sheets that were on the floor. Then they both jumped the fence, and little by little, they got lost in the forest. Instead of stopping them, I quickly walked to my car and drove away. I wasn't sure what happened, but I was terrified. Since then, I haven't been back to that massage parlor. I haven't even been able to forget about the children because when I look at my arm, there are still some bruises where the girl bit me. The doorbell camera of this house recorded a terrifying scene in the middle of the night. Everyone was asleep in the neighborhood when a scary-looking clown can be seen walking to this house porch with a bag drenched in thick red fluid. What happened next will be presented through an animated, dramatized version. I was 12 years old when this incident happened. My dad went on a business trip for a week, so it was just me and my mom. We lived in a quiet and safe neighborhood where not once in a blue moon any criminal activity took place. It was Thursday afternoon, and I was coming home from school, riding my bike. The sun was showering scorching heat, and there was hardly any people on the road. My house was 2 blocks away, and I often roamed the streets by myself several times before. The heat was getting unbearable, and I could feel sweat turning my t-shirt into a wet cloth. I was feeling thirsty, and that's when I noticed the kids' playground on the side of the road. I could easily spot the drinking tap, so without any more delay, I drove my bike into the playground, parked it under this big bushy tree, and rushed to quench my thirst. After drinking cold water and splashing it on my face and neck, I got my energy back. Feeling all right, I turned around to walk back to my bike. That's when a scary-looking clown stepped in front of me from the shadow of the tree. It was so unexpected that I got jitters as soon as our eyes met. I never feared clowns, but the way this one looked gave me goosebumps. The clown was big and bulky in appearance. He wore a blue and yellow coat with a rainbow-colored wig on his head. His entire face was painted white, with obscene wide eyes, with a huge red grin spreading ear to ear. He smiled, flashing his filthy yellow teeth, and said in a rough, coarse voice,
"Howdy, kid!"
Being a little taken back by this sudden surprise, I didn't know what to say for a few seconds. But then, I came back to my senses and replied,
"Hi, I've never seen you here." "I've never seen you here as well. So, you heading home? Playtime's over." No, I was just thirsty." "So, how have you been recently? I heard things weren't going so well." "What? What are you talking about?" "Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I'm here for you. me and the rest of the clowns. Are you crazy? Anytime you need us, just look out your window and imagine my face. I will be there watching over you when you sleep.
Now at this point, I was feeling horrified. The things he was saying to a 12-year-old definitely didn't feel friendly at all. I wanted to grab my bike and get the hell out of there, but he was standing close to it. I feared that if I take one step closer, he will be able to grab my hand. I looked around to see any other human being whom I could ask for help, but unfortunately, there wasn't anyone out there. Once I realized my bike is the only way I can get home, I decided to use my mind. I calmed down and tried my best to hide the fact that I am scared of him. Instead, I put up a fake smile and said,
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being nice to me.
His face changed and a big smile appeared on it. He seemed happy hearing this from me and said,
I thought you would get scared. Every kid gets scared of me. But I just want to be their friend.
To assure him and win his confidence at the same time, I said,
Oh, we can be friends. I don't have any friends either. Oh, that's so sad. What is your name, friend? I'm Gerald. And you are? I am the Red Grin Clown. But my friends call me Grinny. You can call me that now. Okay, Grinny.
He smiled in amusement and clapped his hands like a 9-year-old, which ultimately looked even creepier. He then pointed at the merry-go-round and asked,
Would you play with me?
Realizing this is my chance to trick him and get my bike, I nodded my head and said,
Sure, let's go.
As soon as the clown started walking towards the merry-go-round, I waited patiently for that one window of opportunity. When he was far enough from my bike, I rushed to it, and hearing my heavy footsteps, he turned back to look at me. When he realized I am not going to follow him to that merry-go-round, he started screaming.
Where are you going? You said you wanted to be my friend. You lied. Gerald! Gerald! Come back here!
I hopped on my bike, paddled with my full energy, as if it was my last day riding it, and sped out of that scene. The clown tried to chase me, but I was already out of his reach. He stood on the sidewalk and watched me drive away with a fierce face that I will never forget. Once I got home, I ran inside my room and didn't come out for an hour. I knew I should have told my mom. Then what happened that night could have been avoided. The rest of the day went by fine, and by dinner time, I was completely calmed down, thinking I have escaped this evil clown. But God, I was so wrong. It was around 1 a.m. when I heard knocking on our door. I got up and saw my mom going downstairs already. A feeling of something bad coming our way, I followed her down the stairs too. My mom looked at the clock and said,
Who can that be at this hour?
As soon as she said that, we heard heavy banging on our door. Whoever was on the other side of the door was desperate to get in. My mom turned on the ring cam, and what we saw made our stomachs drop. It was the same clown from the park, and he wasn't alone this time. He had a white sack which was covered with red stains. He dragged the sack onto our porch and then looked at the doorbell camera as if he was looking at us.
Hello, Gerald. Your friend Grinny is here. Come on, come on. Open up. I have a gift for you.
My mom screamed.
What the hell is all this? Who are you?
The clown brought his face extremely closer to the camera and yelled.
Ask your son, Mom. He knows me. We just became friends. He promised he would play with me.
I started to have a panic attack, and I could feel a disruption in my breathing like the fear was choking me already. My mom looked at me. No doubt, she was horrified too. She rushed to get her phone to dial 911, and I stood there like a statue thinking, any minute, this creepy clown will break into our house. The clown went on banging at our door, and that's when my mom yelled.
I'm calling the cops right now, you freak!
The clown stopped banging, and then suddenly ran away, disappearing into the darkness of the night, just like he came. We didn't open the door until the cops arrived, and when they did, my mom showed them the red sack the clown has left on our porch. 2 cops opened the sack, and we all expected to see something horrifying as the sack was drenched in a red, thick liquid. But once they opened it, we found a bunch of rotten red tomatoes squished inside that sack. The prank this clown played on us was no doubt sick. Until that night, I can barely tolerate clowns around me or even watch any movie that has clowns in it. I just hope none of you ever get to meet this scary clown who referred to himself as Grinny. In these clips, we can see different cases of paranormal activity in an IHOP. This is not public knowledge, but they all belong to the same location. The following is a dramatization based on the testimony of a former employee who was brave enough to tell the story of what she experienced there.
My name is Angela. I've been the manager of an IHOP for over 5 years. We may be known for our big breakfasts and our famous pancake towers, but what no one but our employees know is that our branch, which I can't reveal the name of, is known as the Haunted IHOP. Obviously, they don't tell you this on your first day on the job, so several years ago, when I was just a kid hired to cook and clean toilets, I didn't know that.
They must think we're the clumsiest franchise of all. Nah, they know what's going on here. So why don't they tear down this dump? Because despite the broken dishes, damaged stuff, and scared customers, it's still profitable. I've never seen it like that. Can you imagine the number of resignations this place has forced? I know, right? Nobody's getting fired for this job, that's for sure.
I had no idea what they were talking about, but since I was still very new, I heard the word fired and sought to join the conversation. Hey guys, who's getting fired?
Oh, we didn't see you there. Maybe it's about time she knows. Are you sure, dude? Yeah, the sooner I knew, the better.
Oh my god, they're gonna kick me out, aren't they?
You wish. You may think we're playing a joke on you, but you should know that this IHOP is haunted.
Okay, you're definitely playing a joke on me.
He's telling you the truth. Why do you think the employees are never allowed to be alone? The ghost becomes more active when there is only one victim.
Yeah, right.
The crazy thing is that we know who the ghost is. Some have seen him. It's Francis Roth, the previous manager of the place. Many have seen him wandering the halls of the facility, but he doesn't appear to customers, only to employees who are alone.
Okay, cool story, guys, but I have to get back to work.
Without another word, I just turned around and went back to mopping the floor. I knew that being new, I was going to have to put up with some jokes, but I'm sure these guys thought I was stupid. Today, I still regret not having paid more attention to their advice, because a few days later, I would find out the hard way that they were right. Almost a week after that talk, I was about to finish my 3-month probation, so I really wanted to stand out. My partner was distracted cleaning the lobby, so I decided not to wait for her, and breaking the strange rules of our manager at the time, I decided to go in and work alone. I cleaned the bathroom at high speed, scrubbing as quickly as possible. Even though I didn't believe a word these guys said, a part of me did, and that made me feel very childish. I was cleaning the last toilet in the bathroom when suddenly I heard a violent slamming of the door.
Oh my god. Who the... What?
Before I had time to process what was happening, I heard someone trying to get into the bathroom and the sound of the door opening, but the door wouldn't budge. Terrified and confused, I hid in the last cubicle of the bathroom. I closed the door and looked down. I heard loud, hard footsteps coming closer and closer, sounding louder and louder.
I know you're here.
With an angry and stern tone, a voice from inside the bathroom began to shout, although I couldn't see any feet below my cubicle.
You are slacking off again, aren't you? I promised you I would kick you out if I caught you again. But you know what? First, I'll punish you for disobeying me.
As this voice advanced, all the cubicle doors burst open, one by one, slowly approaching mine.
You can't escape from me. I see you always on camera. I know what you want to do. You are all the same. You all want the same. If you want me so much, here I am.
Oh God, oh God, oh God. I watched where I had been a few seconds before, but there was no one there. I breathed calmly, thinking that the danger was over, but from within that peace, I heard a noise behind me. I turned around to check what the sound was, and out of nowhere, the toilet flew in my direction. If it hadn't been for the fact that I'd been a field hockey goalie for years, I might not have had the reflexes to dodge it at the last second. I looked forward again, and the toilet was smashed against the wall, embedded like a bullet. The bathroom door opened, and several of my teammates came running in.
Angela, are you all right?
I swear, it wasn't me. There was someone else here.
Damn it, Angela. What did I tell them about going in the bathroom alone? They were never supposed to do it. Have you met Francis?
To my surprise, no one was surprised by what happened. When I told the truth, no one accused me of being a liar. The story of my two companions was true, and everyone knew it. Francis had been the manager of this place when it opened. The man not only had a reputation for being violent and misogynistic, but also a pervert. I wasn't fired at the end of that month, and although I thought about quitting the job, I didn't. I must admit this story intrigued me as much as it does all the employees who come through here. Several years have passed since that day, and now I am in charge. I can be alone in my office. I guess Francis respects my position in the restaurant. From time to time, my employees are scared by the various things that happen here, like plates falling out of nowhere or doors closing and opening endlessly. But no matter what happens, I never let them be alone. Unfortunately, I can't reveal which IHOP it is, but if you ever go to the bathroom and see that there are 2 employees instead of 1, maybe you got lucky and found it. Just a word of warning, if this happens, try not to wear a shirt of the same color as my employees. So far, it hasn't happened to us, but who knows when the day will come when the ghost of Francis will get confused and attack a customer.
On a cold, silent night, the owner of a house heard some rustling noise at the main door. When they switched on the doorbell camera, they saw a man dressed like Michael Myers, the popular psycho villain character from the slasher movie Halloween, standing outside their door. The story you are about to see is a dramatized animated version of this found footage. I live in a small town in Minnesota. My dad works in the factory and often stays on the road to deliver goods from one place to the other. My mom works at the local bakery, so I am used to staying alone in the house. So this one afternoon, I came home, took out the big tub of chocolate ice cream from the freezer, and sat down in front of the TV as usual. After searching for 10 minutes, I couldn't find anything fun to watch just when I heard a knock on our door. At first I thought I had made a mistake, so I didn't get up and continued watching TV. But then I heard the knock again. Someone was knocking very slowly at our door, like tap, tap, tap. The knocking order was prolonged in a very creepy way. As our dad is mostly out, my mom made him install a doorbell camera on our entrance. And thank God she did. I was strictly instructed to never open the door without checking on the screen. So I got up, walked to the entrance, and asked,
Who is it?
Open.
I wasn't expecting to hear such a spine-chilling voice, so for a few seconds, I couldn't say a word. Then again, the voice came.
Don't make me wait. Open the door.
With shaking hands, I switched on the doorbell cam screen, and as soon as the recording popped up, I almost had a heart attack. A man dressed like Michael Myers was standing outside the door. His mask looked even more distorted than the one used in the movie. Now, I am a 13-year-old, skinny, average-height teenager. The man, on the other hand, looked quite muscular and heavy-built. He brought his mouth close to the camera and screamed.
Can't you hear? How many times do I have to say, open the damn door?
What the hell do you want?
I just want to come in. I've been here already. So, let me in!
Look, man, you're obviously at the wrong house. So you better leave, or I'm gonna call the cops right now.
By this time, I was sweating in fear. My breath got abnormal, and I just prayed to God for making this man go away. But hearing the cops, he lifted his hand, which had a huge knife, and punched on the door and kicked it in anger. He then took a few steps back and said,
I will be back!
And walked away. Feeling terrified and scared, I called my mom immediately and told her about this man. She calmed me down, saying someone was probably trying to prank me, as Halloween is on the way. But I knew this man was serious. His voice and his words didn't sound like a prank. I begged my mom to come home soon, and she did that day. But the entire evening, she went on explaining how it was nothing to be worried about. We ate dinner and went to bed. No matter how hard I tried to sleep, I just couldn't. Probably around 2 in the morning, I dozed off and heard a low creaking sound in my room. As I opened my drowsy eyes, my stomach dropped. My room door had been creaked open, and Michael Myers was standing there. His eyes were fixated on me, and he was breathing heavily, which made his chest go up and down like a hungry wolf. But the knife was missing from his hand. Just then, I thought about my mom, and my blood ran cold. I uttered in a shaking voice,
How did you get in?
Because she opened the door.
What? Mom!
I screamed for my mom sitting in my bed. I was about to start crying when a bolt of huge lightning struck at some distance, and for a second, I closed my eyes. Once I opened them back, the man was gone. My room door was closed, and everything was completely normal, as if the man was never there. After calming myself down, I slowly got up and tiptoed out of the room. The main door was closed, and there was no one in the house. I peeked inside my mom's room, and she was asleep like a rock. Thinking it was all my disfigured imagination, I blamed myself and went back to bed. The next morning, I didn't say anything to my mom. I left for school and my mom left for work. In school, I could hardly concentrate on my studies. My best friend Matt was absent too, so I decided to bunk the classes after recess and return home early. I wanted to take my mind off, so I planned to play some video games and get some sleep after going home. But after recess, when I came home, things were different. I used the key under the mat to enter the house. Once I got in, I could hardly believe my eyes. All of our furniture was scattered and broken like a rampage took place here. And the sound of metals clanking can be heard from the kitchen. The blood in my veins started rushing 3 times faster in fear. I grabbed my baseball bat and slowly walked to the kitchen. What I saw changed my life forever. The kitchen tap was running, and the man, dressed like Michael Myers, was standing in front of it, facing his back at me. He was going through the kitchen drawer, looking for something. Suddenly, he turned around, and our eyes met. He got perfectly still, and then said in his demonic voice,
Do you know where she kept the knife?
What? How did you... Oh, this isn't a dream. Oh my god, last night you were actually here!
My head started getting heavy. I was so afraid that I thought I will faint, and that's when I heard my mom speak in a creepy voice.
Oh, Michael, I'm ready.
I turned around towards the stairs and saw my mom coming down wearing her wedding dress. She had lots of makeup on her face, which made her look horrible. Her eyes were different. Her stare creeped me out.
Mom?
The moment I said this, she stopped. She obviously didn't expect me to be home at this moment. Seeing me standing at the end of the stairs, her face turned pale. In a fumbling voice, she said,
Jeremy, what are you doing here?
Mom, you know him?
Look, Jeremy, it's nothing. Michael and I like spending time together when your father's not home. Otherwise, I get so lonely. You understand, right?
I was spellbound. My mom is having an affair with this psycho guy? I couldn't take this anymore. I slowly stepped back to the main door. The man now came out of the kitchen, and my mom, too, came down the stairs. I spoke while fumbling.
Who is this guy? And why is he dressed like Michael Myers?
Baby, you know how different people like different things, so...
Oh my god! Is this some kind of sick fantasy you two play out? Oh, holy smokes!
I didn't stay for her answer. I ran as fast as I could and heard my mom yell.
No, it's not what you think. Please, come back.
But I am not going back. It's been 2 days. I am living in this small tunnel right near the railroad. I can hear the sheriff's car patrolling this area every 12 hours. I know my mom has asked the cops to look for me. What I don't know is that, did she tell the cops about her psycho admirer? I bet she didn't. I am waiting for my dad to come back tomorrow. His truck will pass from this area, and the moment I will see him, I will tell him everything. Till then, I am going to live undercover. I don't trust my mom, and I do not trust the man under the Michael Myers mask.
Busy with the ever seen cable.
There are 3 servers on, sir. We can only do so much. If you don't like it, you go somewhere else. Who else is open? Go
Nobody
there.
else. Well, you know, I'm not gonna fucking pay for a meal.
You can buy. You're out. Hello, he's gone.
Here you can see a man arguing with a waitress since his food has not been served. When the woman tells him to go away if he doesn't like it and walks away from the table, he, in a fit of anger, throws a glass on the floor. The story you are about to see is an animated, dramatized version of this crazy footage taken inside.
It's been almost a year since I started working at IHOP. To be honest, at first I wasn't excited about being a waitress because I would have to deal with so many people every day. It's not that I'm shy or introverted. On the contrary, I have a strong character and I'm not afraid to defend myself from anyone who bothers me. So I thought it wouldn't be a good job for me. It turned out to be better than I thought. Although, you know, when you work in customer service, the more time passes, the more likely you are to run into troublemakers.
Good morning, Ben.
That day was a Friday, so it was very likely that we would have a lot of customers. Still, the job was easy to handle, at least until the sun started to go down and even more people began to arrive. At a certain point, 2 men entered. One of them was bald and overweight, while the other had short hair, as well as a beard and small eyes. I stared at the second one for a few moments, because he was wearing an outfit that stood out. Thin glasses and a black shirt paired with leather accessories. By chance, both men ended up sitting at one of the tables I was assigned to serve, so I soon made my way over to them.
Hello, here are your menus.
I was going to leave while they thought about what they wanted to eat, but I was interrupted.
Don't go. We won't take any time to decide.
I figured he was saying this because they used to go to IHOP frequently.
Sir,
The bald man was the one who interrupted me.
I want a Mega Monster cheeseburger and Sierra Mist as a drink. I want a Sierra Mist too.
And what about the food?
A grilled tilapia, understood?
Once I finished writing down the orders, I replied,
Yep, got it, sir.
I hope it doesn't take too long.
That comment had been more aggressive than it might seem, but it was already late and I was tired, so I didn't have the desire or the time to distract myself with that kind of thing. I went back to the kitchen, gave them the order, and then continued serving the other people who were there, as well as those who were just arriving. The place wasn't completely full yet, but still, my coworkers who were in the kitchen were taking a while to finish the customers' meals. Part of my job as a waitress was, of course, keeping an eye on the clients, so I could tell if they needed anything. That was how I managed to see that the bearded man was staring at me and raising his hand, so I walked over to his table.
Yes, sir? What do you need?
Where is my food?
Excuse me?
I asked where my food is. Didn't you hear, Lucas?
His friend spoke, as if trying to stop him.
It's being prepared, sir.
It's been more than 20 minutes.
I know, sir, but there really isn't much I can do about it. Please wait a little longer.
After speaking, I walked away from there. I hated customers like that. So self-centered that they believe they're the center of the universe. I just couldn't stand them. The minutes passed, and while I was serving other customers, I couldn't help but feel as if someone had their eyes on me. I soon realized that it was that man, Lucas, who kept looking at me with his small eyes. The only time he stopped was when he turned to look at his watch. At that moment, I said to myself,
You're gonna be a pain in the ass, aren't you?
I decided to ignore him and went on with my work. But at a certain moment, as I passed his table, something stopped me. A strong grip on my arm was keeping me from continuing on my way. Naturally, a great anger began to grow inside me.
Hey, waitress!
I shook my arm in an attempt to get him to let go, but his big hand didn't move an inch.
What do you think you're doing?
What are you doing, Lucas? Stop! You're taking too long to bring our food. Are you doing it on purpose?
Sir, I'm not going to tell you anything until you let me go.
I continued to struggle, but again, it was useless.
What the? I am right, am I not? You little piece of... You want to escape?
What is wrong with you? Are you paranoid or just out of your mind? I don't care if you are a customer, I will not tolerate any abuse, sir.
I was a strong person, but I couldn't deny that the situation was making me nervous.
Excuse me? Abuse? It is this place, and specifically you, who is treating us badly, not the other way around. Who do you think you are? Will you dare to play the victim? Oh, I'll make you play the victim if...
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave if you continue to threaten me.
Seriously, Lucas, stop! Just let her go!
He turned to his friend, who was doing his best to help me.
Shut up, Rick! I am not talking to you!
Soon, Lucas returned his cold gaze to me. Those eyes were really freaking me out.
So, now you're gonna kick us out? Well, guess what? I'm not leaving until you bring me my food. Go get it.
Finally, the man released me. With a quick glance, I could see that my arm, where his hand had been, was red. I felt beyond furious at the fact that he had hurt me, but I decided to stay calm. After all, I couldn't afford to be fired.
For the last time, sir, we are busy, so your food is not ready yet.
I stood still for a few seconds. I was terrified. Had he really tried to throw the glass at me? What was he planning to do? Soon, some of my coworkers came over to check on me.
I'm fine.
Still in shock, I approached the old man who had complained earlier.
Are you okay, sir?
Yes, miss, but that man is a danger.
I didn't answer him. I went to the front door of the IHOP and looked out the window. Then my heart started beating much faster as I saw that man trying to get the policeman to release him so aggressively. His eyes, which were wide open, stared at me before he got into the police car. He gave me chills. After that, I took it upon myself to sweep up the broken glass, but I couldn't forget what had happened. Later, when I got home, I took off my left shoe because it felt sore. That's when a piece of glass came out of it. My foot was hurt, as was my arm. I just hoped that man would never go to IHOP again.